Hi, Barbarian here. Are you a game master looking for an amazing game world rich in lore and strange new creatures to run your D&D or Pathfinder 2 game in? Well, look no further than the world of Battlezoo, Indigo Isles. The world of Battlezoo, Indigo Isles contains everything you need to set sail for adventure. Except maybe a boat. You're probably gonna have to buy your own boat. But the book itself contains a detailed overview of key locations on the Indigo Isles, dozens of story hooks and NPCs, and details on the ancient spiritual religion known as the Eld. Wow, that sounds spooky. Don't forget to take your weapons with you. You'll also get 15 new dragons as monsters, featuring the entire family of wild dragons from the Battlezoo Ancestries Dragons book to help you murderize your players' precious characters. And you'll get gobs of new magic items to make them feel like they might have a chance. But they won't, will they? What's more, there are tons of new character options, 10 new ancestries, 10, and new archetypes and subclasses and heritages, and seven familiars native to the Indigo Isles. Remember, the world of Battlezoo Indigo Isles comes in 2 different versions, one for D&D 5e and another for Pathfinder 2. Oh yeah, and they are releasing the PDF right after the Kickstarter ends. If you'd like a new fantastical world to amaze your players with, click that link right down below to follow the Kickstarter and get notified when it goes live.
Hello, everyone. We are live. Oh. And we have made it, barely. Because today we're going to do a preview of Rage of Elements, the book that Jess has been talking about for a year. And now you can finally show off a little bit, right? Are you excited?
Them to reveal it before I can tell people.
Whoops, I had you muted. But that's what you get for being late, Jess. Because I didn't set you up.
I was muted too. I was muted too. Everyone but Steven was muted.
Yeah.
So everything I said they did not hear.
Jess was fashionably late, so I didn't set her up correctly. She was saying how she's so happy she was a cover artist and
cover author.
Cover author, yes. Yeah, so Rage of Elements, very exciting for me. My name is on the cover. If I were to have like the dream book, like the dream assignment within the scope of Paizo assignments, this was absolutely it. So like getting to write on this book, the fact that this book was made and getting to write so much of it was like dream material for me. It was so wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
So to cover a couple of caveats up front, as a preview on the Earth chapter, we were asked to show not the whole Earth chapter, 9 pages of the Earth chapter. We're going to do one from the intro too for all of you for context. That's it. And also, we're not supposed to give like our impressions on this because it's a preview, not a review. So obviously, as Jess mentioned, many of us are very excited about Elements. Like this was a book that when I was at Paizo, I fought hard to try to get it to be on the schedule. I'm really excited that this topic exists. But when it comes to showing off the content that's in there, we're not going to give like impressions in any direction about like how we feel about it. But you might be able to guess that we're excited because we have 2. I'm also an author, did not write nearly as much as Jess did for the book. Mm-hmm. And Steven loves Elements too.
Yeah, I have nothing to do with this.
That's why the contest is elemental themed.
Yeah,
that's right. Because of
Steven did not know Rage of the Elements was coming out when at PaizoCon he announced that he wanted an elemental theme contest for this year's RPG Superstar, and he was like, "Whoa, He had originally told me that he wanted to be called like Wrath of the Elements for the RPG Superstar contest, and I was just like, maybe let's use a different name than that, because I couldn't tell him about Rage of the Elements because of my NDA with Paizo. So that was it.
I was like, let's call it Wrath of the Elements or Rage of the Elements. And he's like,
wait,
maybe.
Steven, me. I was like, I don't really like
that
name that much. And Steve was like, I think it's a really good name. I was like, I think maybe we should do something else.
Well, I came up with Elemental Storm. It's good enough.
And then I was like, Elemental Storm is great. And then a few days later, Steven was like, I see why you said that.
Elemental Storm. I think actually Eric told me too. He leaked it that they were doing an Elemental
So
book.
then you realized what I was talking about.
Yeah, and then I was like, oh, okay. Because I told him about it. And he's like, oh. And then when I heard that, I was like, what? He's like, yeah, we're doing an Elemental. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, well, he's like, he didn't care. I think it's like, it was different enough, obviously. So
yeah, it's the year of the elements.
Yeah, and it's a super different. Like the elemental thing Steven's doing and I'm doing with him has 20 elements and a lot of things that are just not elements.
Like the element of
Pathfinder.
Music.
Yes, and space and time.
It's
really super different.
But we both have metal. We both have wood. We both have water and fire.
Yeah, Rage of the Elements ups the number of elemental planes in the Pathfinder setting from 4 to 6 with the inclusion of metal and wood. But I mean, Steven isn't happy with doing any kind of reasonable number of anything.
That's true.
It's just always got to turn the dial up to 11.
Is that so bad? Is that really so bad?
I like that about you, Steven. I'm
just
always willing to turn it up to 11.
the Indigo Owl book. Look at the size of that thing.
It's ridiculous.
Is that the adventure?
Yes.
Yes. It's a 3-part adventure path. It's almost as big as Kingmaker. That's just the Steven way. So in terms of Earth, I've always liked Earth as an elemental plane because I like sending my PCs to the planes at lower levels. And when you go to the plane of fire, it burns you. And if you go to the plane of water, it drowns you. The plane of air has traditionally had confusing gravity rules. And even now, that the gravity rules are less confusing. It's still pretty 3D. But on the plane of Earth, you can kind of just go there in the plane of Earth. And Earth is strong. Like, I'm here in the not really Erzul's lair, but there is like a T-Rex and some other fossils around. Like, when my house burned down and then like gallons of boiling water rushed down into the basement, everything was destroyed except some of these fossils that were down here because Earth endures and is the strongest element.
So
that is true about Earth.
Alex Page had a question if we're doing kineticists. The answer is no. So the way it's worked is Paizo let us being the people in the community, to choose what element we wanted to spotlight, and then each of us can do one element. So someone got earth, someone got fire, someone got air, metal, water, wood, which is funny. It was first come, and churn. Someone also got churn. And it was first come, first serve. And I was the last one. And the only thing left
is awesome.
Was Earth.
You got
which is
really
funny because
thing.
Well, I probably would have taken metal only because metal is pretty cool.
Metal is cool too.
Metal is pretty cool. But I like Earth a lot. In fact, in my Avatar: The Last Airbender, I was an Earthbender. So
nice.
I like Earth.
Which would you have taken, Jess?
Well, you got it. We're going to get to the preview in a sec. We're just waiting for people to come in. When you got assigned this, did you get to choose, or did they just give you things to work on?
Ooh, okay. I got to take a look at what the sections were, and I was given the opportunity to indicate which sections I was most interested in, but I was not able to choose. I just gave my preferences, and then I was assigned whatever I was assigned. And it happened to work out that I was assigned most, like the section that I had the most words in was probably the air section. And so Logan Bonner sent me like what sections I was writing, and he was like, I hope you like air. And lucky for me, air is actually probably my favorite.
That's good.
Someone asked, is there new classes? And there is. It's the
kineticist. But that's not our section.
It's not our section.
Because that is a separate section.
Yeah. It's a separate section. It's not our section, but I believe it is the case that someone does have it to preview.
Yes, someone
so keep
in
your
chat-
eyes peeled.
Someone in chat said they think that NoNet is doing the kineticist.
Yeah, I'm not
Oh.
sure. The previews are all going to be this week and next week. You're going to see the previews.
Yeah.
Yes, I know who they are, but I'm not sure if we're supposed to say if
I'm not
it hasn't been
gonna say.
revealed yet. So I'm only going to tell you that someone in chat said that, and if you're in chat, you've already seen that.
And by the way, so if you want questions, do subscribe.
And ask us your questions about Earth, and we'll try to get them in. Otherwise, we have a bunch of things to show you. We want to show off Earth. We've chosen our previews to be the most representative sections in Earth. We have some good sections that Jess wrote and can speak to. And we looked for things where we can try to sleuth out some clues about the remaster based on what we see in Earth. For instance, there's certain spells that are different in some of the monsters that we might be able to guess what spell they replaced, and that can be a fun game. And so we're going to try to do that as well. And that's part of why we're showing off a little bit from the introduction of the book, because each group of people can show the introduction or the back matter if we want, as well as stuff from our own section.
So with that, what should we start off with the updated rules, or should we go right into the intro?
What do you think? Should we do Earth intro or updated rules, Jess?
Well, the Earth intro won't have any rules content, so it might be better to do the intro first and then do the updated rules before we get into the rules, so that they're closer together.
So we'll do the intro and then the intro to Earth and then the thing from the book intro. Good call.
Let me just set this up. That's page 86. Okay. Make sure this looks right. Give me a second. Just want to make sure I didn't mess anything up.
Intro section
there we go.
is one of these sections that we're going to be showing off that I happen to be the author of. But we are here to preview content only. We are not here for me to review my own content or for me to tell you what I think about my own writing.
That's true. And I'm not going to tell you what I think about Jess's writing either, but you'll be able to see on this spread once it's up here.
It's up.
Oh, it's up. Great. Yes. That there is this piece of art that has the Triceratops.
Ooh.
Definitely has some interesting features on it that might make you want to figure out, like, what are all those things? Are they going to be described? And then there's this in-character intro lore, and that would have been what you put in there, Jess?
Yes.
So what is the in-world author of that section?
The
who is
in-world
that?
Author of this section is a genie. So they are an Earth genie. So they are a Jabali, is the name that the Earth genies have been given now that we are moving away from the OGL names. I think. Or is Jabali the
generic I think so. Although it is true that Shaitab was not in the OGL, because Dao was in the OGL, but I think that when the other ones got mixed around, that like maybe my guess is that like a consultant came in to get the new names and then was also like maybe not Shaitan. And so they would have gotten a new name from that.
It's Jaram. It's Jamali Jaram is the author for this section.
Yep.
Let's see here.
Jaram is the name of the Jabali.
Right. So just so you get an idea.
That's the name of the specific person. Okay, yes. So the Shaitans are now the Jabali.
Yes.
So the narrator for this section is a Jabali genie, which is one of the Earth genies. And like Steven said, his name is Jaram, and he is a very ancient Jabali. So like genies are like what we would have previously referred to as like outsiders. They're planar creatures. And so they are kind of like, they're not mortal. And so they don't have the same kind of lifespan that a mortal would have, and their souls don't interact with like the river of souls in the same way. And so Jaram is so old and has known the plane of Earth for so long that he was even like an ally of Syrazul prior to her imprisonment. That is how.
Does that mean he's been like probably around 100,000 or more years old?
Yeah.
That's an awesomely like eon perspective.
Yeah. And so that's the perspective that he has on the plane of Earth, in that he was Syrazul's ally prior to her imprisonment, and then when she was imprisoned, he embarked on kind of like a journey of discovery, searching outward and inward both, learning more about the plane of Earth and about himself and his place in the plane of Earth, and the way that the plane of Earth is reflected inside of himself, and the way that he is reflected in the plane of Earth, and the relationship that he has with the plane.
So one thing I just wanted to mention, so the way it's set up is that it's pretty cool. Each section has its own coloring, so they even changed the sidebars, the frame around. So like in this section, you're going to see it's very earth oriented. And then the fire section is obviously fire, and the wood section is obviously woody. And so each section has its own look and feel to it.
And its own narrator.
Narrator.
Yeah.
It's actually, this is very hard to do. It's a lot of work. This book is sort of like 8 books in one. So like each element is almost like a book within the book, which is pretty cool.
Absolutely. Yeah. If this were like a Planescape box set, absolutely. This is the kind of treatment that those got, where like each elemental plane would have been its own like little booklet. The way that if you got like Planes of Law, you would have your Mechanus booklet and your Celestia booklet and your Hell booklet.
That's right. So in this introductory lore section, there's a bit more. We're not going to show you all the pages, but it has more information. It talks about Petron, which looks to be a replacement for the Terran language, is a new Earth elemental plane language that's in there.
Yeah.
It talks about some locations, including the Opaline Vault, which is the big planar city on the plane of Earth. I asked people before the stream on the r/pf2e subreddit to give me some questions that they wanted us to answer, and one person was like, given the city of brass is very important in the plane of fire, what would be the equivalent on the plane of Earth? And I told them, well, in the past it's been the Opaline Vault, but I'll check to see what is going on, because the remaster could have changed things. And I see the Opaline Vault is in here again, and is still a really awesome city and place that your PCs can go to and not burn or drown or fall forever.
So yeah, this is, the intro. They all look very similar, and they sort of set the feel.
There's one rule thing in the intro, though.
Oh, what's the one rule thing?
Oh, yes.
There's an adjustment sidebar that if you've seen the fire preview from how it's played, you'll have seen the fire adjustment sidebar, but the earth adjustment sidebar is similar. Lets you just be like, I want this creature to be kind of earth. And it can gain the earth trait and some tremor sense and burrow, and then like maybe some magical earth spells. So it's pretty much what you would expect for like, how is it going to get across the plane of Earth if it can't burrow? So like, it's pretty much exactly what you would expect when you saw the fire one. So we figured we'd show you something else for the next picture.
So we did have a question. I don't know if you saw the glaive ribbon.
It asked, is there more about Oprak, the Hobgoblin Nation? That's right. I searched the book once you asked that. I did not find any mentions of either Oprak or Onyx Citadel when I did a Control F. So I don't think so. So while they are connected to the plane of Earth, there's also like a weird demi-plane shenanigan going on with them. And it looks like it didn't make it up to the level of being in the introduction section.
There's so much on all of the elemental planes, like they're all functionally infinite, that it's not really possible to go over everything. And so there are some things that were brought forward from previous books to make sure that they were mentioned in this book, but Oprak and the all of that kind of hobgoblin adjacent stuff does get mentioned in like books that talk about hobgoblins. So it was already kind of brought forward into the PF2 source books. And so it didn't need to be reprinted here in order to have a foothold in second edition.
So by the way,
that makes sense, because Opaline Vault had a bunch of playtimes you could go there in PF1, but never mentioned yet in PF2.
A couple of people are asking what churn is. So churn is the combo of elements. We're not covering it, but basically anything you see within a section it's only going to be Earth. You're not going to see Earth and Fire and Earth and Wood or Earth and Air. You're just seeing just Earth. But Churn is where you would see any and all. There's, again, I'm not covering it. We're not covering it today, but that's where you're going to see spells that can cast multiple elements.
And Shadow of the
that.
Mask is asking about Aether and Void. They wouldn't be in the Earth section. If they even had something at all, it would have to be in one of the other sections, because I checked the Earth section and they are not mentioned in the Earth section.
So I know a lot of people want to see. I know what they want to see. You want to see the new stuff, so I'm gonna go.
They do. They want to see the new stuff. So let's show that intro so that we can get them into
3.
the space. Yeah, space 3, so they can be ready to see the rules that we're going to show next.
All right, so I'm gonna
because pretty much
so
the rest of our preview is rules sections.
Yeah. So there is, as people know, this is the first book that will be featuring the new updated rules. Not all of them, but most, or at least significant amounts of rules.
A decent number
that are part of Pathfinder Remaster. And these are the updated rules. It's from the beginning section. I'm just showing it.
And I want everyone to look at that sidebar. It's actually not that many things that are on here. And it's because some people are worried that like lots of things will change. This is literally, they clearly went through the entire 242 page book, or however many, maybe 240 plus the covers, and then they found everything that you would need to know about the remaster that is in there at all, and they put it in that sidebar, and that's it.
This is it, actually. That can fit the whole thing.
Alignment has been removed. Now deities can sometimes be a holy or unholy. Attribute modifiers instead of ability scores. Components for spells and item activations are replaced with relevant traits, and also they seem to be given names for the item activations. We'll show them to you in the Earth section. Elemental scamps have replaced methods, which honestly, methods already said in their description they're sometimes known as elemental scamps. Genies now have different names for them before, and metal and wood are added. The new languages were changed, so we're right about Petran. There's Susuran, Petran, Pyric, and Thalassic. Off Guard was formerly known as Flat-Footed. Moon Sahirs replaced Azers as like fire dwarves. Planes include some new names. Reactive strike functions like attack of opportunity with a name that is more obvious what it is. Spell rank replacing spell level, one of the most awesome naming changes to stop being confusing. Spell schools no longer a part of the game. Illusions still have illusion rules, so I guess it's still a trait. Vitality and Void replace positive and negative from the trait, which explains why. So the word void did appear. See, person who asked about void. Now it's negative damage. So I think it's always been true that having written the void element in PF1 for the kineticist in PF1, it was always tied to the negative energy plane. So this is a very flavorful and good name for negative damage, I think, because negative damage is kind of confusing. And Wish is now a ritual, and you cannot cast it as a 10th level spell, it looks like. That was actually pretty interesting.
That one actually comes up a fair amount of times because a couple of genies can catch
the genies.
Wish.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I noticed that. But this is it. This is the whole list. It's not that big.
Now, to be clear,
this book. It's for this book.
Well, no, to be clear, I've noticed spells that are in here that don't exist yet. But they did not put all of those in that sidebar, but that's probably because these are the only things you would need to literally change out in the book. Whereas those spells, once they do exist, you'll have all of the information for them on Nethys.
So
this is very exciting because as I think people can probably infer, when the sections of this book were written, so when I wrote all of my material for this book, this was last year, spring, summer last year. This was long before everything with the OGL happened. So I wrote PF2 OGL content, and then all of the changes to bring it in line with what's being done for the remaster were done in development at the beginning of this year as honestly an incredibly fast response to what was going on. The amount of work that went into putting the remaster together in just so quickly while this book was also being finished, astounding.
It's absurdly fast.
Yeah.
They did it while this book was being finished. They did it while as far as I know, they at the time that they had to do most of this stuff, they were still under from my leaving because another designer is still hasn't been announced yet, right? So that is an absolutely Herculean effort, and is well, you can see the results here, and like my section had like half of those things that needed to get changed, and I didn't even write that much. But between my sections, I was thinking about it as I probably used like at least half of all of the things that were on there were somewhere in what I was doing.
Absolutely.
And where do you want to go next?
Okay, so let's go to the deities. Just go in order from Earth. When there are some, one of those changes, because we said they said deities could be holy or unholy,
92.
and there's no alignments. We're going to see them. Plus, we have Erzul is over here, and he's impatient for right next to me, and he's impatient for the Erzul page.
Erzul is like the number one worst dude of the planes. Like, you think demon lords are bad? Wait until you see Erzul. He's the worst.
I kind of think that demons are worse.
Ooh.
But Erzul, there are a lot of demon lords who are not as bad as Daemons or Erzul. But every time I read a demon lord's deity article, it'll be like, oh, they have this cool festival that actually makes sense that people might want to celebrate it with the demon lord. And then it'll be like Zoriel, the daemon deacon, is just like, Zoriel will never hold a holiday until everyone is dead from war. You just won't. And it's like, okay, but how does she convince you to worship her? Does she have some things that are positive? No, she just tricks people and saying no one else will ever like them, and that they have nothing else.
So we have the king and queen
jerk, though.
Up here. We have Erzul and...
we've got both of them up. Yes, we've got Erzul and Syrazul.
We do.
Are they married?
Is not a jerk.
Are they married or are they just
No, they hate each other.
Oh, Erzul, but they secretly love each other. No. They both have Zul.
No,
this is not that Geb Next thing where where Geb is holding the next picture in the meme.
No, I did write Syrazul's entry though, and so Syrazul, the crystalline queen, she is described as like a mother goddess, right? And she's also like insectoid, which I really love. It's not my decision, but the decision that was made to do this like crystal insect mother goddess, kind of like those convergence of things, very, very excellent. But Syrazul is described as the mother of a lot of different like types of creatures. And the most famous of those is probably the Zyamorns. So she was the mother of the Zyamorns, but when the good elemental lords were imprisoned, Erzul got his little bony grabbers in there and manipulated the Zyamorns into worshiping him. And the Zyamorns were, the Zyamorns were introduced in as part of like the mythic rules in PF1. And so like in PF1, like about half of the Zyamorns were mythic creatures. So that's because they had Syrazul's like divine essence. They had part of her godhood inside of them. And Erzul manipulated them into sacrificing half of all Zyamorn's like divine spark essence of Syrazul to him so that he could have Syrazul's power.
That's not very nice.
No,
it's not, and it's not something that you do when you are married to someone. That's
terrible. Oh well.
Someone in chat, Salhadoon, said Erzul is a tsundere, to which I replied, "Oh, I'm not blushing. This is just deadly radiation."
Someone also wrote that you can be married and still hate each other.
Oh no, Syrazul has my agenda in Syrazul's section was expanding the canon Syrazul polycule.
The canon Syrazul polycule is cool. Who's in the canon Syrazul polycule now?
Well, so what got published is not necessarily like explicit in all cases as to whether
so you can't reveal the secrets then.
Right. But we have a couple of her lovers and consorts who are named. We have a Jabali, Farah Abd Aziz, and then we have an ancient dragon, Restherian, who are two of her consorts who searched to try to free her while she was imprisoned.
And I mean, she's been spending time with Arshay. It says it doesn't say that. It doesn't say anything other than spending time. But when you're spending time with Arshay,
right. I decided like Cyrezul needs some allies, right? And so I also included. You can see here in the Cyrezul entry, if you're like getting your little peepers on and reading real close, we have Cyrezul was allied with the elemental lord of metal, Laudinmio, before their imprisonments, and is attempting to reawaken the relationship to protect both realms against their shared foe Irazul. And so in my like headcanon, right, that Laudinmio, maybe not currently someone with a relationship to Cyrezul, but in my imagination prior to their imprisonments, this was another one of her lovers. Because I do like the idea of two of the elemental lords actually having a relationship with each other, especially someone like the elements of metal and earth. I really like the idea because metal was represented so long as like a part of earth. I really like the idea of like showing that there was a relationship between these two elements prior to the plane of metal being sealed away.
It explains things without it being just a retcon, and there was never lots of metal on the planet of Earth. You were wrong. Everything you saw was wrong. It's always never been there. But being like, hey, there's a relationship. That's why you saw some metal there. Yeah. That's a great thing. Also, I like doing that when you're expanding canon.
Yeah. It's also the case that Irazul intentionally misrepresented himself as the elemental lord of metal.
What a jerk.
So
he's the worst.
We have a question which I can answer. Is Shadow of the Mask asks, does the book talk about the Xiomorns and their Earth Elemental Empire? And the answer is, yeah, actually, they are in here. In fact, in the Fossilized King, it says right here, primarily worshipped by Xiomorns, page 108.
Yes, so, and if you stick around, we're going in order, but we have a Xiomorn for you. So stick around until the Xiomorn, at least.
Yes. And so then the other relationship, like Mark was saying, that is in the Cyrezul entry is the Crystalline Queen has also been spending time with Feronia, fertility goddess on the plane of fire, and Arshay, one of the Imperial Lords, nurturing new connections across the planes. My headcanon here is maybe this is part of the like Cyrezul expanded polycule, maybe not. That part is not so much my focus. What I do want is for these three to be a pantheon that is just like all about like familial love.
Is it like that lava short film from Pixar? Because they're earth and fire and they're all about love.
Lava film from Pixar. Which film?
Didn't they have like a little short film before one of the other films?
No, it came out right now. It's called
two volcanoes that were like in love with each other.
Yeah. No, there was
like
Elemental.
5-minute short film in front of one of the other films.
Well, there's a movie that just their movie Elemental just came out, which is all about.
That's different. This is literally
you're talking about
like
the 5-minute
love and earth and fire. So it's like really related or something. Okay.
All right, so that's me talking a lot about Cyrezul. Because
but this is the kind of content you're never going to get if we just like showed a picture of it that only had the text of Cyrezul.
Oh yeah, of course. But let's look at number one, the worst Cyrezul here. So he is the the bone T-Rex on the cover.
He's not bad.
Though, if you look at his art here, you can see a little bit better, I think, in his interior picture than you can see on the cover, the limb count. So he does have those like stubby little T-Rex arms, but then he has another set of limbs out past that.
He's got this storm behind him in this picture too.
It's got a little bit of everything. Yeah, we got the cover here. I don't know why people in One Earth. We got the guy from the cover. But...
Yeah.
He's got a radioactive ray as one of his avatar abilities too. And you can see what the remaster is doing with the deity stat block. So as you can see, there's no alignment. It does say that the followers must choose unholy for their divine sanctification, it says.
Yeah.
He's still got a divine skill, divine font, divine attributes, and also has edicts, anathema, areas of concern, domains which look mighty similar to what we saw in a favored weapon. So I think there's nothing here that makes it look like that you can't use domains directly from previous books. Just use your best judgment to say must choose unholy for ones that like only had evil as the alignments they had, and must choose holy if they only had good in the alignments they have.
Yeah, not all good deities require you to be holy, and not all evil deities require you to be unholy.
Right.
Like Irazul says must choose unholy. Syrazul says can choose holy.
Right. And
this is
if
just
you were
more
trying
evidence of Irazul being the worst.
He's just very picky. But if you're trying to figure out what that means in terms of the way it was before, it would probably mean that Syrazul had, like neutral as one of the alignments that was on there, in addition to some good alignments, perhaps. So if you see a deity like that, you now know that in the new one, you can put can choose holy. Whereas if a deity only like Yahtzeed the top row, then they might be must choose holy. And so that seems like super easy, at least to my eye, to convert for anybody. Like it's not like you're going to actually have to do a complicated process or think really hard about how to change those two things. So I do like that.
Yeah, we do have a question. New deities. These aren't completely new. The elemental lords did have write-ups in Gods and Magic. So the 8 of like the 4 good of each of the 4 elements at that time, and the 4 evil at that time. The 4 good and the 4 evil. So those 8 did get like short entries in Gods and Magic, in like a shorter elemental lords section that I happen to be the author of in Gods and Magic. And then their information, like their domains and divine skills and everything, were featured in the big tables in the back of Gods and Magic. But this is the first time that they are getting like full page write-ups, which is very exciting for them. I don't know that they got this treatment even in PF1.
I mean, the good ones definitely didn't, because they were imprisoned. The evil ones might have, but not this much. And it looks like another thing we can see, someone pointed out in chat as well, the metal domain, because Erzul's a jerk, and it's like, I'm really the Lord of Metal, is on Erzul's list of possible alternate domains for like an apocryphal church of Erzul, who believes that he still is the Lord of Metal. And it says page 145 heavily implies that this book has a metal domain. I saw people before being like, is there a metal domain? Is there a wood domain? What do we know? And from the earth section, you wouldn't think we would find any of that information, but we do have strong evidence for a metal domain, unless the earth section unless Erzul is just such a jerk that he's teasing us with a domain that does not exist on page 145, which you can never put past him.
That would be the worst. There are 4 new deities, though. So there are 2 elemental lords, presumably, of each of the new elements. Like we got the name of one of the elemental lords of metal out of Syrazul's entry.
Right,
he's mentioned again. Laudinmio is mentioned again here in Irazul's entry too. There's a section here that says, over the eons, Irazul won significant victories. By imprisoning his rival Syrazul, Irazul invaded the plane of metal and seized the portfolio of metal from Laudinmio. And so that is like his active machinations of trying to
you did it.
Yes.
That's right. Machinations. Also, someone else pointed out that some of the spells that are listed on here, Mountain Resilience is a 4th level earth spell, so it's probably Stone Skin, but we're not sure. And Petrify is a 6th level earth spell, so it's probably Flesh to Stone, but we're not sure. But they probably are. So for now, that we can at least speculate that they might be, or at least, very similar. The Pathfinder mechanics for those spells were always pretty different than the Dungeons and Dragons mechanic, or Pathfinder 2 ones were pretty different than the Dungeons and Dragons mechanics ever were. So I feel like they wouldn't have had to change it to keep it with OGL by just changing the name, but they may have changed it just to make it a different spell.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Stone Skin is a very iconic Dungeons and Dragons name. And so even if the mechanics are different, I understand wanting to distance yourself from the very iconic names. The things
they definitely
that, you hear Stone Skin. Yeah. Oh, the mechanic. Yeah. You're right.
What I'm saying is we can't say whether we can't say whether or not petrify is pretty much literally flesh to stone or something completely different that turns you to stone until we see it. But my guess is that it might be very close because those mechanics were not similar. The names were the ones to change. I totally agree with you about the names.
Yeah. So someone says Arizil is metal as fuck. You just wait until you see the plane of metal.
The plane of metal is cool.
It's very metal.
It's very metal. So we actually have a lot more to show.
Yeah, we're at
1/3 of the way through this preview, but I actually want to do a quick 1.5 minute break because I need to do something real quick, and you guys might want to break. So hold on, we'll be right back after this quick commercial.
1.5 minute break.
Hi, Barbarian here. Are you a game master looking for an amazing game world rich in lore and strange new creatures to run your D&D or Pathfinder 2 game in? Well, look no further than the world of Battlezoo, Indigo Isles. The world of Battlezoo, Indigo Isles contains everything you need to set sail for adventure. Except maybe a boat. You're probably gonna have to buy your own boat. But the book itself contains a detailed overview of key locations on the Indigo Isles, dozens of story hooks and NPCs, and details on the ancient spiritual religion known as the Eld. Wow, that sounds spooky. Don't forget to take your weapons with you. You'll also get 15 new dragons as monsters, featuring the entire family of wild dragons from the Battlezoo Ancestries Dragons book to help you murderize your players' precious characters. And you'll get gobs of new magic items to make them feel like they might have a chance. But they won't, will they? What's more, there are tons of new character options. 10 new ancestries, 10, and new archetypes and subclasses and heritages, and seven familiars native to the Indigo Isles. Remember, the world of Battlezoo Indigo Isles comes in 2 different versions, one for D&D 5e and another for Pathfinder 2. Oh yeah, and they are releasing the PDF right after the Kickstarter ends. If you'd like a new fantastical world to amaze your players with, click that link right down below to follow the Kickstarter and get notified when it goes live.
Look at that. We're back. That was
We're
quick.
back. It was like a minute and a half.
It was like a minute and a half. That's quick.
Yeah.
And
Let's show people some spells. I got my spells.
I got my sorter.
I really like Earth spells overall. I don't know whether I like these particular Earth spells.
94.
Well, Earth has a lot of very cool themes for magic. Like we were saying about Stone Skin being like an Earth spell, and Flesh to Stone, or maybe Petrify being like an Earth spell. Those are like classic, iconic pieces of magic that are very much about like Earth and Stone.
I'll zoom in for these.
We're going to show you 2 pages of Earth spells. There are, in fact, 2 other pages of Earth spells, but these are the ones we want to show you because there's some cool stuff to consider based on these Earth spells. One of which I'm going to talk about right now is Glass Shield. So if you take a look at it, it's a cantrip. It says it functions as the shield spell, except it has hardness 2 and 4 hit points. Now, right away, I remember that, and then it talks about like if it is broken, it provides the breaker may take some damage. Now, when I think about the original shield spell, I feel like that it has a hardness. But if you use the block at all, you just can't use it again. It doesn't get broken, right? It doesn't have hit points. So I think that could imply it doesn't give you enough information to explain what the hit points are, unless the basic shield spell changed a little bit too, I think. That is only speculation based on what we're seeing here in Glass Shield. There's also the question of whether you could just go hog wild with spells that function as shield and have like 6 different shields, all of which you break one at a time. I'm guessing maybe you pick one or the other. And this is a very interesting fork from the other shield. As we can see, assuming the other shield at least kept similar hardness, it's a lot less hardness than the shield we're used to. But dealing that damage on the reaction gives you a way to turn it into an offense and defense combined.
By the way, someone pointed out, even I didn't notice this, in Glass Shield, defense is the new term for saving throw.
That's right. It has defense for saving throw or attack roll, because it probably would have said defense AC if it was defended against by a C, like exploding earth up at the top, right?
Yes.
So it's an overall term for both, so it doesn't have to alternate.
That's actually a good idea. I didn't even notice that. By the way, exploding earth, you can't have enough fireballs made out of other elements, and each one has to be slightly different. So now, if you wanted to use a earth ball, now you can with exploding earth.
That's right. You totally can, and I mean, looks like it does most of the damage to the main target. But think of the mental image. You just hit them with a rock, and it blows up and does splash bludgeoning damage. And I mean, then that's why it's level 2 and not level 3 like Fireball, is that it doesn't do all the damage to everyone, but it actually does a little more to the main target than a Fireball would.
Yeah,
I am intrigued by this engraved memory.
Yeah, it's uncommon, but
because Irazul, part of his portfolio is like concealing things and keeping secrets and like taking things and burying them and hiding them and keeping them away from other people. So this engraved memory, where you store memories inside of a stone, that is
interesting.
Yeah.
Think about the plot potential. Is like you're evil, you're Urzel, so you're killing people after storing their most important memories in a stone that you keep in a vault, and then the PCs have to heist your memory vault to bring back lost information that like otherwise is only accessible. And it's your hubris in keeping the stones because you're Urzel and you want to keep a hoard of it. That is the only reason the information can even be obtained again.
There was a question here about Glass Shield, Mark. That sounds like you have to answer.
Let's see, what did it say? Because it functions as the shield spell, does that mean Sparkling Targe mazes can use it? It says it is. So the interesting thing is that it says it functions as a shield spell, except it does yada yada. So functions as and acts like are something that are sometimes unavoidable, but designers attempt to avoid because of questions like this, where if you can make it just be the thing, it's easier. And it also leads to the question of, if you have a 10-minute break on your shield spell, can you just switch to Glass Shield and get like 4 or 5 of these shield spells and just have shields every time? And so I think unless there's something more explicit in the remaster, you're gonna have to decide for your group. You can do the sort of the symmetry version where it's like it is shield. Their timeouts go together. So pick one. It does work with Sparkling Charge. It's everything except for that change. Or you could do, it's a different spell that just uses the shield as a baseline to save word count when it says that, and nothing works the same. And I think both of those are coherent, or your group might find a compromise answer where it sometimes is shield and sometimes it isn't. So just talk to your GM and your players if you ever get, I think, some kind of in-between or ambiguous wording.
Someone had a question.
So look at this. There's a reaction in here. First level spell. People were very excited to see reaction spells. It's called Interposing Earth. Look at that. Somebody's going to strike you or make you do a reflex save. You suddenly raise some flimsy earth up. It's going to give you standard cover, which is +2. That's a pretty powerful benefit for a first level spell, especially at higher levels when you can just spam it if you're spontaneous. And if you would be damaged, it does blow up and reduce the damage to you.
Sorry, I just blew up my PDF here for a second.
Oh no, it blew up just like the reaction did.
I clicked on the wrong thing. Someone did have a question. Is that defense AC, does that mean the target rolls a save? Like, is it a spell attack? Or is it just...
We don't know for sure,
Yeah,
but
I
I would
don't know,
assume that
actually.
my complete guess is
Exploding
that you
Earth.
roll spell attack.
Yeah, Exploding Earth says attempt a spell attack against the target's AC.
Oh yeah, there you go. So
Yeah.
it's
No, it says
clearly
right
in
there.
the description.
Yeah, okay.
It clearly
So there you
says
go.
it directly.
There you
So
go.
my assumption
always
turned
read
out
the
to
spell.
just be correct. Thank you for seeing that it was literally there.
I know.
Well, I was curious about that too, so I
Yeah.
read through the
So
spell.
I
you
was on the
read
next page.
the spell.
Yeah, I was on the next page, so that's what got me. So there's some cool stuff in here. There's utility things for just like someone who wants to do fun things with
Yeah.
Earth, like instant pottery. And then there's just yeah,
cave
there's just like-
ground.
So
Yeah, heaving Earth, also level 7, and look at the level 9 version where you hit the ground. There's a giant wave of heaving Earth, and everybody is pushed away, and it explodes, dealing 12d10 bludgeoning damage, and it pushes things away. And then at 9th level, it explodes on an additional target of your choice. So basically, it looks like it is exploding on 2 people instead of 1 at the end there.
So, by the way, we can
That's a
review
lot.
this or give our opinion, but we have Derek from Knights of Last Call who just joined us, and I guarantee that instant pottery is going to be
I guarantee that Derek will
their
review it
favorite
once he-
spells ever.
He
In
will
fact-
review it once the book is out.
Oh yeah, but
and once people are allowed to review
I'm
it, just
calling
like,
it now.
just like everyone
I'm
else.
calling it now. Derek's going to give instant pottery an S tier because
Okay.
you know what? Being able to shape things into earthenware objects for light bulk, you just never know.
Okay, you know what though? You know
just
what I will say
never
for
know when
instant
you need
pottery?
things. I'm being serious.
So instant pottery has a duration of 1 hour. However, you can cast this spell on objects previously created with this spell, extending their duration.
That's true.
And as
It
you
only
heighten
takes a
it-
minute.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and
And
as
it's called
you
pottery. But
and as you heighten it, the duration increases. So heightened 3rd level, it exists for 24 hours, and then you can cast it again to give it another 24 hours.
yeah.
You know
And
what?
here's the thing, it's called pottery, so it might make you think, oh, I'm just gonna use it for a pot. But it's anything
mhm.
earthenware up to that level is actually, if you compare it to the like creation spells that currently exist, which admittedly give you earth and some other choices, but like assuming you wanted to make something from earth, this is lower level, got a great duration, and
Also,
if you're a
it can
creative
be
player,
used-
you can do a lot with that.
It can be used for more than one item. It says you shape it into earthenware object that in combination can be up to light bulk. And
Yeah.
if you heighten it to 3rd level, you can create objects of up to 2 bulk. So it's not like you're creating a single plate with a cast. Like you
Yeah.
could create like an entire place set.
You could create 20 light bulk utility objects for your party.
Yeah.
They're all made out of earth for 24
Yeah.
hours at level 3.
Yeah.
I'm like half kidding,
You don't
but
need to carry this stuff around.
right.
You can just
Well-
create it when you need it.
You can use it for
And-
cover. Just make a giant like table or block or something like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
don't let the name fool you. It's actually
I was thinking you can use
pretty
it to
utility
you can
spell.
make keys to like open doors. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll be honest, like stone.
That one might be considered to have intricate artistry
Maybe.
if it has to be the exact key to
Perhaps.
open the door.
Perhaps, but
But
you never
there's a
know.
lot you can do with
If
it,
it's a-
even
depending
if
on
you
the
can't
GM.
make keys.
But you know,
Yeah.
I think if I were GMing, I would probably let you make copies of a key you already have, but I probably wouldn't let you just create a key to a lock that you cannot unlock.
no,
I'd
no.
let you make like a
that's-
clay mold that you could put your
Yeah.
key that you already have in, and then you could fill it with
Mhm.
wax and make as many copies as you want.
Well, what I like about creating copies of a key that you already have is that you are creating a key with a finite duration. So if you created the clay mold, which I agree, I would absolutely allow that too. If you're creating the clay mold is temporary and your key is permanent. Whereas if you are creating the key itself, the power dynamics of the situation of you giving that key to someone else change. You're not giving them an item that exists permanently. You're giving them an item that exists temporarily. And so you're
That's
only
true.
giving them temporary access to this location.
That's true. I'm just not. I'm not nice enough on that phrase to give them the key. Whereas if I gave them clay that didn't have the little key pieces in it, but they could just press the key into it,
Yeah,
I think that fits for me.
So,
but either way, it's really cool.
Few quick super chats.
You can use these.
Let me answer these just because they're from Derek directly. So Derek from Knights of Last Call. Well, because he's talking to me. Literally, he said Steven.
Yeah, he says he approves of instant pottery.
Well, first he approves of it. We'll go backwards. Yeah. He approves of instant pottery. I told you it was S tier. Knights of Last Call. He also writes, Steven does the budgetar approve of this earthbending. You missed the whole beginning. So in Origins, Derek from Knights of Last Call ran Avatar Last Ad Render, and I played the icon, which is the airbend. It would be the bender. It's sort of the icon, and I was an earthbender. And you missed the whole talk, Derek, that in the beginning, everyone
we talked about how Earth is an important element.
We were given our choice of elements, and I was the last one to choose, and the only thing left was Earth. Which was funny only because I was like, I probably would have chosen Earth to begin with. So yes, the budgetar. They kept calling me the budgetar because I wasn't the avatar. I was the budgetar. The budget avatar. So the budgetar approves Earth.
Right.
There you go.
So let me tell you all about a few standouts that are on the pages that we're not showing, just because we're not showing literally every page of the spell, but there are more spells. There's another cantrip called Tremor Signs that lets you send out little tremors through the ground for just one action to communicate like Morse code with your allies. And if they have tremor sense, it's easier to pick it up. And there's a spell to get tremor sense so that you can do that. There's also a toil domain from, I think, Age of Ashes originally is picked up. And so that shows that focus spells look pretty much the same as they did before, because it's just there and it's got its 2 focus spells. So there's a lot more than that too. I just wanted to call those out as those are a few of the spells that will appear on the other spell pages.
Yeah, I'm also really intrigued by this sliding blocks spell.
Oh yeah, that one looks like something you can do stuff with. Because it's sustained up to 10 minutes, and your 6 stone cubes can be moved around like sliding block puzzles.
Yeah, and they don't have to be on the ground. You can put them in the air, and then other creatures can like jump between your blocks.
Yep. So you can use it to create like a weird ladder, and you're sustaining it, and the ladder just keeps going up and around, or some weird 3D puzzle that is just consider it a puzzle room that's like a constant sliding block spell that just there's a hazard that it doesn't damage you, but it just kind of moves these blocks to mess around with your team while you're trying to use athletics to moving around it.
Yeah, so you cast the spell and it creates the blocks, and then each time you sustain the spell, you can move them around. So you can move the blocks each turn. So if you were to delay until like after an enemy moves, then the enemy moves, and then you configure your blocks around to make it so that your allies have the battlefield like the way that you set it up.
Yes. You can't move all of them to just like suddenly they're imprisoned, but it looks like you can move 2 of them up to 10 feet each, which is
for each time you sustain.
Yes.
For each time you sustain.
You're right. So if you do 3 sustains on your next turn and just did only the sustains and not anything else, you could really move them around.
I'm pretty curious. I think Sandform is going to be very popular, personally. It's because being able to turn yourself into an aspect of sand.
I mean, that is very useful in many situations. And
it's not the only form spell we have either. On the first page of Earth spells, we had glass form.
We totally had glass form, thus proving someone asked, and we saw with glass form, glass shield, someone asked in Reddit, is glass considered a part of Earth? It totally is. Glass form actually seems like it's got some pretty large list of things that it does, because it gives you concealed, you're scentless, you can't bleed, you get a bunch of resistances, you do get a couple weaknesses. So it looks like you would want to watch out and not bring it along when you're in the sonic home of the Screecher bludgeons, but it's got a lot of things it does.
So why don't we go to what is next? We did
items.
Spells.
Let's go to items.
So, what is that, page 98?
This items is page 98. We're going to give you 1 page of items now, because we decided 2 pages of spells, 1 page of items. This page of items has a few things that we can figure out from it that are really, really cool that I want to share with you.
All right, we're on the page.
All right. So first of all, obviously, it's got Aeon Stones, and Aeon Stones have always been a favorite, even since the core rulebook, and there's some interesting possibilities there. But I'm going to turn your attention to the fossil fragments that are at the end of this page. So they have an ability to activate fossil metamorphosis. Like I was saying, we saw in the intro that it removed interact, envision, and command from the activations, and now they have a name, and then they say whether they're concentrate or manipulate. In this case, fossil metamorphosis. And these look like they're figurines of wondrous power. Like we see an amber mosquito that turns into a giant mosquito. And if you look at on the next page, it'll say that like just more information about mosquito, but the idea that it can come for a day, for up to 10 minutes, that's like figurines of wondrous power's timing. So it makes me think this is one of the replacements for figurines of wondrous power, which is a very D&D sort of name, and the exact animals that are in the D&D ones are always in the D&D ones, but nobody has done fossil fragments that also create a creature and have these different animals. So there's some other ones that are on the next page that you don't see, like a Brontosaurus and a Deinonychus, a Eurypterid, a Tyrannosaurus, Triceratops, all sorts of fossils. So I think that's really cool. And it just goes to show the kind of creativity that we might be seeing from the remaster in general, moving away from the OGL to something that feels like it could fill the same niche, but is not the same item.
Any other items you want to go over here?
On the next page, we can't show it, but there is a new shield.
That's true. The limestone shield. What does that do? It looks like it turns into a giant wall every so often.
And it has a block
giant
elements
wall.
reaction.
It's huge.
Yeah, it's got that too. So once per day it turns into a big wall, and once per day it can just suddenly give you cover against an effect that is a certain type of effect. And that should mean that it's helping your reflex save, since you already, if it's up, would have had AC against it. Although it's possible that you didn't even need to have it up. So it would provide AC or reflex saves against those particular kinds of effects. Also, I guess we can use that to take a look. So sturdy shields right now, they're ridiculously powerful at blocking things in the core rulebook, and they have 10 hardness and 80 hit points. So it looks like the limestone shield will have 7 and 28 hit points, and we know because we've been told that there's a sturdy-esque rune that is supposed to make them not as sturdy and not as like overpowered as something that has all their other powers and then also is sturdy. So even if it does almost anything other than just give more hit points, but if it increases hardness, it's going to be basically going up there to sturdy and have all its abilities. So this we don't know. Maybe it only gives 1 hardness and a lot of hit points. But if it gives any substantial amount of hardness, this may mean that sturdy is no longer a buy, because like if it gives 2, it's 1 less than sturdy. If it gives 3, it is equal to sturdy, which we know it won't, because they said it wouldn't be equal to sturdy. So it's probably not going to give very much hardness. My guess would be that it gives a lot of hit points and a smaller amount of hardness, but what we will see going forward. But that was a good point, Jess, to snoop at this shield so we can figure that out. And there's definitely items here that I could see people who are interested in Earth using. There's a sandcastle structure item that lets you make a castle out of sand. And back to the figurines for a moment, the Brontosaurus has a very special ability where the Brontosaurus, you can put a structure item, maybe the sandcastle, on its back, and it'll just carry the whole structure item around. Ooh. Which possibly opens up a new meta for if you have a structure item that was just like, we made this structure and now it does massive damage to everything within 30 feet, but it took an hour to summon it, and what enemy is going to possibly come to your structure? Well, now if you can have a Brontosaurus carry it up to your enemies. Now, I don't think there are any structures like that yet, but it means that if you've got that Brontosaurus, you should be on the lookout for offensive structures you can put onto its back.
So, by the way, someone has been asking a few times though the does the elemental lord get a stat block?
They do. They have their deity stat blocks that we showed earlier in the stream. They don't have fighting stat blocks because they're literally a god.
Yeah.
If they're, fighting gods is the kind of thing that you don't do in the normal rule set. You would need something akin to Pathfinder First Edition's Mythic rules to even fight the easy gods. And my understanding is the elemental lords are not the easy gods. They're not like lower demi deities, I think, right? They're like some of the more ancient and more powerful end.
They're very ancient, though they were like in Gods and Magic, they were in the like other demigods section.
Oh, so were they demigods?
I think
then maybe they could be beatable for a mythic character.
I believe that in first edition Imeri got stats.
Oh yeah, you're right. So they must have been demi deities after all. So they could be, but if there was, there's no equivalent to mythic from Pathfinder First, so you wouldn't be able to fight them yet. That's
not the gods, but there are the aspects, because I'm looking. There is the Vault Builder, which I don't think we're not showing the Vault Builder.
Oh, I thought we were showing the Vault Builder.
Oh, we are showing Vault Builder. Okay,
we will.
I forgot which
we're
one.
showing it soon, but not yet.
That's sort of almost an aspect of.
Well, the Xylorns were the like the children of Cyrus.
Right. True. Right.
Yeah.
So put it this way: you won't be able to fight the god, but you can fight their children or the aspects.
Sure.
So they're level 23. Okay, they're going to be pretty damn hard. You're not going to be rolling over these things. Don't worry about it.
Oh no, I mean in PF1 that was a mythic creature.
Yeah.
It's powerful.
We have
absolutely
a super chat. Anthony
it says,
Peterson.
would it be possible to play a campaign with only elemental magic? Would that break the game for missing too much core book magic? I think if you were going to do that, you should just use the elementalist spell list, because that curates some spells that aren't technically directly elemental but feel kind of elemental, and is a big enough list that it would work. I wouldn't be harsher than the elementalist spell list. That's my personal take on that particular homebrew idea.
I would be more generous than the elementalist spell list. What I would do is I would like go really hard into like Plato's writing about elements and what each element was. And I would go through all of the spells and I would classify or reflavor as necessary in order to classify all spells as an element. So like I would take all of the like darkness spells and I would file them under air. And I would take all of the illusion spells and I would potentially move those to air or water or fire, wherever it is that you want to put them. And I would probably shuffle things around and like add or remove spells as necessary in order to make like air and fire active elements and earth and water passive elements as necessary. And I would rework the magic system to categorize things as elements instead of the way that like D&D and OGL descended games typically categorize things into the spell schools.
That is super awesome, and I would play Jess RPG, but my guess is that people who are watching this may not have the mental bandwidth to do that. And so compared to that, I would say that of the options that might be easy for them, which is use the elementalist list or use that plus add maybe divine or something if you think that's more different and you need to add it, or use only ones with elemental descriptors. Like I think some of those could work, and the Jess solution is the best. So like if you ever see it, it would probably wind up being a third-party product that Jess just does sometime and publishes, I guess.
That is an intriguing option.
So, by the way, Mark,
that is an interesting
Derek has a question for you.
Derek had a question for me. I didn't see it.
If you put the Brontosaurus, if you cast a Brontosaurus and then put the dinosaur fort on it, would that work? Could you now move?
I don't think so, because it's not a structure. Oh, wait, it says it's structured for an item or spell effect with the structured trait. So now, it may be too... I think the dinosaur fort is too large, because the Brontosaurus has a limit to the size it can carry.
20 by 20.
Yeah, and the dinosaur fort is way bigger than that. So unfortunately.
But could you get a team
Yeah, but hold on.
Brontosauruses.
The Brontosaur item is an 18th level item, okay? So you could easily upscale it to an artifact above 20th level version that creates a kaiju-sized Brontosaurus. And I think that you could put a dinosaur fort on the kaiju Brontosaurus artifacts, and then that could have 4 T-Rexes playing Hungry Hippos on the fort that's on the Brontosaurus that's now carrying your entire settlement, or whoever has decided to come with this giant Brontosaurus.
I'd have 4 Brontosauruses, 1 on each corner, and they're just carrying the fort.
If the
and then
GM wants to allow
the T-Rexes wandering around. That is that would be pretty cool. That would be so much flavor. It might explode. It might break your game. That's having a walking dinosaur fort of Brontosaurus skeletons.
So you will have to decide whether that works for your group or not. There's even consumable items in here that let you get some benefits when you are making certain kinds of checks, or that there's one that's rare that comes directly from the Cyrozul to protect you against Erzul's radiation, which protects against poison and void damage, which may suggest that Erzul's radiation, if for someone who did want to homebrew their own fighting against Erzul, maybe like Erzul would deal an aura that deals that kind of damage or something, right?
Actually, a good question, which I myself am wondering, but I presume the answer is, why are dinosaurs being associated, or why are they associated with Earth? And I think
I think the answer is behind me, and
that's where they came from. At least where we, they just,
or because
mentally,
one of the 2 gods of Earth is a fossilized king, because fossilization is a process of something becoming stone, petrified, fossilized, when it's buried in the earth usually. So I think that's why, because it's a cool thing. And in Pathfinder, one thing I like is that whether it's this book or not, whether just in the Pathfinder lore, the elemental planes are not just seen as like, oh, this is just some place that's all fire. This is just some place that's all just dirt. Pathfinder's always been trying to find the cool things that are related to that element and sprinkle them into the presentation of that element.
So why don't we do one more quick break, and then we're going to go to creatures.
Yes.
And then people will get to see the creatures.
Hi, Barbarian here. Are you a game master looking for an amazing game world rich in lore and strange new creatures to run your D&D or Pathfinder 2 game in? Well, look no further than the world of Battlezoo, Indigo Isles. The world of Battlezoo, Indigo Isles contains everything you need to set sail for adventure. Except maybe a boat. You're probably gonna have to buy your own boat. But the book itself contains a detailed overview of key locations on the Indigo Isles, dozens of story hooks and NPCs, and details on the ancient spiritual religion known as the Eld. Oh, that sounds spooky. Don't forget to take your weapons with you. You'll also get 15 new dragons as monsters, featuring the entire family of wild dragons from the Battlezoo Ancestries Dragons book to help you murderize your players' precious characters. And you'll get gobs of new magic items to make them feel like they might have a chance. But they won't, will they? What's more, there are tons of new character options, 10 new ancestries, and new archetypes and subclasses and heritages, and seven familiars native to the Indigo Isles. Remember, the world of Battlezoo Indigo Isles comes in 2 different versions, one for D&D 5e and another for Pathfinder 2. Oh yeah, and they are releasing the PDF right after the Kickstarter ends. If you'd like a new fantastical world to amaze your players with, click that link right down below to follow the Kickstarter and get notified when it goes live.
Well, we're back.
I got one of the items from the book while we were gone. It was the Deinonychus claw that, when activated, turns into a Deinonychus to assist you.
There you go.
But let's look at the monsters. We've got
what page
2
was
to
that?
show you, and we looked through all of them. They were all monsters that are something that you might be able to use. For example, one that we're not showing you, the Elder Outcrop.
Which one should I do? 106?
Oh, hold on. First show the Genie.
Okay.
But the one we're not showing you, the Elder Outcrop, is a 13th level huge earth elemental. Why is this hugely relevant because we're not an exactly 13th level huge earth elemental. And so therefore, if you wanted to use a summon spell to summon a 13th level huge earth elemental, you could not summon a 13th level huge earth elemental, but now you can summon a 13th level huge earth elemental. But we thought that you might be excited to see everything that's going on with those Jabali genies that Jess has been talking about since the intro, because there's a lot that's new and there's a lot that we can look at, and there's more that we can try to figure out about the remaster in here.
Yes.
Well, we're looking at it.
Yes, we can do some investigation.
I'm just looking through.
So this piece of art, I don't think this looks the way that like Shaitans were previously depicted.
Yeah,
like
they
not
had all
that
sorts of
Shaitans all
crystals
look
in
the
their
same.
body.
Yeah.
So what do you want to
That's
say
definitely
about?
true.
Did you do? Which ones did you do, Jess?
I did not write the Jabali.
Okay.
I
But the
wrote
next one
some
we're gonna
genies
show.
and some other sections.
Okay. So what do you guys?
But what can we see here? First of all, let's look at the innate spells. For one thing, the wish is not in innate spells because we know it's now a ritual. It's in a downtime activity because it's a ritual.
Yes.
And it looks like it's economical.
Economical wish. It's not. It's a wish, but now it's economical.
Yeah, it tries to do it in the most straightforward, simple way possible. So I've not read what the wishes look like on the other genies, but I'm guessing based on the fact that that one does that you could have different genies who try to fulfill them in different ways, so that it's more interesting which genie you want to summon.
So in the like Pathfinder 2 Bestiary 1, I think. Where the Pathfinder 2 genies were first given like stat blocks. There is, I believe, a sidebar that describes the noble genie, now called the Shayuka, that describes the particular ways in which each of the genie nobles grants a wish. And so these like economical wish abilities are like an expansion of what was in that sidebar before.
That makes total sense. So it fits. It's what is interesting here. I feel like when you're going to make some changes, doing that where you kind of like reach out and touch what was there before, so it feels like it's an expansion and an evolution rather than just like completely tossing things out, is something that can work well, and that's exactly what we're seeing here.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of the other wish granters, and each of them does. Some of them will do it the most straightforward way. Some will try to twist your words. Like each one will grant you a wish.
That makes sense,
but in a different way and how they interpret the wish.
So let's look at their spells. They have interplanar teleport at the same level as plane shift, and so it's probably plane shift. It says astral plane, elemental planes, or the universe only. So that's a
universe is going to be the
material plane, right?
Yeah.
Or it's got to be the material plane is the universe, which is like
yeah.
To me, is a little odd sounding right now, but it makes sense that like our known universe is what the other planes know as like that weird place that mortals live.
Yeah.
And then it's got petrify at level 6 again, even more evidence that it's a stone to flesh thing. It's got a 6th level mountain resilience, which
because
we know
stone
that's a
skin you
4th level.
could and
it could be heightened by 2 before, so we know that the heighten at least preserves a +2. That's more evidence that it might be stone skin. And it's got illusory disguise, which used to go up to 5, wall of stone, and shape stone. Now an interesting thing it has is an ability which lets it just decide what side of the wall of stone you're on, which, given how powerful Wall of Stone was before, may suggest that perhaps there are adjustments to Wall of Stone to make it less like you win because you cast Wall of Stone. Because if you could do that and also separate a party where you're like, well, I've decided that Jess is on this side of the Wall of Stone and everybody else is on the other side, that's actually making a strong spell even stronger. Or these genies are terrifying, which is a possibility.
Yeah. To me, it would make sense if this was just like a terrifying genie, because this isn't the regular Jabali. This is the Jabali Shayuk, right? This is the noble genie. This is a level 12 creature.
By the way,
I would be afraid to face that as an add-on in a level 20 battle, where it's just like my level 20 opponent has like several of these Jabali Shayuks, and I would be like, we need to kill the Shoyuks first.
Yeah.
I do know we do have a weird job when you have interplanar teleport. It's like, oh, it's the astral plane, the elemental planes, or the universe only.
Or just the universe.
Just the universe. It's like you have to state that. It's like, what's your job? I have to figure out what places in the interplanetary realms Jamalis can teleport to. It's like,
well, I mean, it's not interplanetary teleport, because interplanetary teleport would let you teleport
to a different
interplanar.
Interplanar teleport. Because if they kept the original teleport, it should have interplanetary built into the height.
Right. Yeah. I misspoke.
I will say that interplanetary teleport is functionally the same as interplanar teleport universe only, I think.
It depends. Let's assume they kept the very, very important plane shift text that says that when you go back to the plane that you've been to before, you return in the same location, so that plane shift can't be used to cheese out a higher level teleport than 7. Because normally you would need a heightened teleport to go to other planets, so that it would be more of like an opt-in scenario.
No, that was always like one of the top things about plane shift in like Dungeons and Dragons was like plane shifting to a different plane and then plane shifting back, so that you didn't have the teleportation mischance.
I totally did that as a way to get around teleport at levels where clerics have plane shift at lower levels than teleport, and we'd be off by like 5 miles, but that's fine.
Okay, that was the most. That was
You're
the
like
most,
a 5th level cleric.
That was the most
or
Pathfinder.
You have it as like a 5th level cleric spell.
That was the most Pathfinder 2 conversation ever.
There you go, but it was actually all about older editions in a way. So there's also some other abilities here that you can take a look at. Stone Clutch, I can push you into a wall and the wall grabs you.
Yes.
And then Stone Crush is like Constrict, except for normally with Constrict, it's like, well, I can only constrict you if I'm holding you. But this Stone Clutch Stone Crush is going to constrict everyone who was clutched by the wall. So you can push everyone into the wall, and just one action, everybody keeps taking damage each time. That's pretty. They've got some interesting abilities.
I'm kind of surprised this is only level 12. It's only a level 12 creature, because it seems way more powerful than level 12.
Stone Clutch is really interesting in the way that interacts with what your incentives are, as far as what side of the wall of stone you actually want to be on, because you can only shove a creature or push a creature into the wall if you are on the same side of the wall as them. And so that creates an incentive to not use the stone shape to completely block, like create a wall between you and.
Yeah, my guess is you would create a wall that separates out somewhat, like one vulnerable person that you want to kill by yourself, and then you shove them in there and you just start choking them with the wall, which is just like very evocative, and like you can picture exactly what this genie is doing to people.
Plus it has my favorite, most annoying thing in the history of gaming is Earthglide. My players hate Earthglide so much, because they're like, we cornered you. I'm like, no, you didn't. Just Earthglide behind you. Sorry. You can never get someone into the corner when they Earthglide.
Yeah.
So we have a few more that we're not showing that have some spells that may reveal some information in here. So somebody has a spell called One with Stone that may be meld into stone. We're not going to show that one. Also, there's 2 Xenomorphs. We said we would show the strongest, biggest, baddest monster in the whole Earth section, and we're about to. But the one we didn't show has an ability called Translocate. And very importantly, it has a 4th level at will Translocate, and then once per day 5th level Translocate. And to me, that screams Dimension Door, because many planar creatures have a 4th level Dimension Door, so they can go 120 feet at will, and then one of the 5th level 1 mile Dimension Doors, so that they can kind of get foe a mile away, but then they can't just keep doing that more than once per day.
Yeah.
All right, you want to show the Vault Builder?
Yes, let's show the Vault Builder. It did not have Translocate, so I wanted to talk about it because it was only on the weaker Xenomorph.
Here we go, the super duper strong.
Yes, this thing is so powerful that it's one of the strongest Earth Elemental creatures we've ever seen in Pathfinder 2nd Edition.
Mm-hmm.
Weirdly, it doesn't have any abilities that I am as terrified at as the Jabali's wall thing, because maybe I'm traumatized by Wall of Stone and the fact that I didn't change it as much in PF2 as maybe I should have. But it's got so many amazing spells that it can use that are powerful in 2 sets of spells. So it's mainly a caster, and that's why if it did also have something like that wall thing, that would probably be a lot.
So right off the bat, they have Reactive Strike, which is Hack of Opportunity, but that's gone. So now it's Reactive Strike.
That's right. It also has the ability to petrify you forever if you become Clumsy 4. It has an ability that refers to the other Zero modes. I'll tell you that what that does is all of its strikes are Fortitude save for an hour of Clumsy 1 or 2 on a critical failure, and it's cumulative. So that means that if you fail 4 times, critically fail twice, or any combination thereof after getting hit, you're done. You're turned to stone. So that is pretty scary, especially considering that it's DC on let me see. It's DC on Constraining Crystal, says as Vault Keeper. So let me see. The DC on Vault Keeper is only 31, so never mind. It doesn't say that it has a different DC, so yeah, it's not that scary. You'll make it, I think. But if it had a DC for level 23, I'd be pretty terrified by that. And look, it's got Reactive Strike, just like they said in the intro. It's the attack of opportunity. So it's a caster that also has like an attack of opportunity, an awesome Crystal Wand.
Crystal Wand's
I guess
cool.
it's level 23, so you expect it to have a lot of powerful stuff.
Although it does have my top 5 favorite spells of all time. Level 9 Disintegrate. Oh, baby. The DC 50 check. I'm smelling double damage coming your way.
That is more than mildly terrifying.
What's that? 180 points of damage right there. That's
So another thing about this, that's the kind of thing that's like, well, you'll never see this until it's level 23, because otherwise, how is it doing this? But because it's level 23, is that it actually is clearly a top tier spellcaster with 2 giant pools of spells that go up to 9th and 10th, while also having the moderate hit points, like not a reduced spellcaster hit points, and a major resistance to physical that does not reduce its moderate hit points. And that's the kind of thing that if it was not a high level creature, you would normally see that it would have one of those reduced. But what it does here is it actually has a relatively low AC for a high level creature of its level, which a caster would normally also have at lower levels, but it just has the lower AC, and that's already enough by level 23, because if you have one weakness at level 23, the PCs will find a way.
Their saves aren't that great, Fort and Will.
Let me see. Yeah, they've got 36 and 35. When you compare that to level 23, let me see. You might be right, Stephen. I will take a look. I was looking at the AC. Oh, right. Saves are right after AC. I thought they were right before. You're right. They actually have 2 saves that are below moderate as well. So their saves in AC are where you can come at them, but their hit points and the resistance of assault kind of feels like Earth, where it's just like it has so many hit points
and resistance.
And normally, if you had 20 resistance physical, like you might lose like some number of hit points for that. And for a spellcaster, that's a lot, but I feel like it's very appropriate for level 23.
Yeah, I mean these are, they are tough.
Absolutely. So,
they also
what
have
other cool spells do we see? Do we see anything
10th level spells? And they have Wall of Stone at 10th level, which, talk about battlefield control, that can be annoying as hell.
Yeah, it's so hard and I don't mean just hard to win, but like it has high like hardness and hit points.
Oh yeah, it's like
level.
they just wall you off if they're losing, and then they can regroup and then disappear with Earthglide.
Oh, it does have Translocate. It was in the second block, so it did have Translocate. What else?
Well, because it has the a similar innate spells list as the innate spells on the Vault Keeper. It's just that it also has like its arcane prepared spells on top of the stuff that it has just kind of for being a Xyomorn.
DC 50 spells is so terrifying.
DC 50.
Like, yeah, it's just like, okay, Yeah, that's very like you said, Steven. That's something I don't want to face anywhere. And it's got the upgraded haste twice. So if it's teaming up with a bunch of other Xenomorphs, it can give them some extra
I didn't
actions.
see that. Oh.
Yeah, it totally does. Has the upgraded haste twice. It's all at the same level, which just the fact that when you look at spells that have a familiar name, you see them heightened to the same level just shows you a lot of spells are going to be the familiar spells you expect in the remaster. It's not all going to change. I know some people were worried that like there's going to be a lot of changes, but it really looks to me reading this book that this is like staying very consistent. They're making the changes that they need for to get rid of the OGL terminology.
Yeah. But then all of the stuff that is like Pathfinder, like Paizo, or like original IP, like Ant Hall is the same, Quicksort is the same.
Scatter Spree is just from Secrets of Magic.
Ooh, in 5th level, we've got this See the Unseen.
Yeah.
That's probably
You're right. That's probably true seeing. It's got to be.
Yeah. Someone pointed that out in chat.
Good work, chat. You noticed that one right before.
Yeah.
Right before we got it. Good work. And it uses ones from this section, which I think is it's hard to do that when you're making a book. So just having designed books before, getting it to work such that one person is writing spells and you're like, write some earth spells, and the other person's like, I'm writing monsters, write some earth monsters. One of them's a spellcaster, and to have the spellcaster have the spells is just always a major logistical success for the book. It means that either the freelancers were able to do it with enough time and phases that one of them came in time for the other one, or were in constant or at least a decent amount of communication, or it means that the developers and designers were able to come in later and be like, well, this new spell really fits this theme and is of the same level, so I'll swap that in there. And either way, that takes a lot of like attention to detail and quality to control to get that out there.
Someone's asking what's the highest level earth creature. I believe this is it.
This is the highest level earth creature I've seen in Pathfinder 2nd edition, but I am willing to be wrong. And so I will now definitively tell you if there's anything higher. There's nothing higher in here. So, it doesn't have it by, okay. Ancient dragons are also sometimes have the earth trait, like Ancient Crystal Dragon, but they're lower level than this guy by a lot.
Ancient dragons are way lower.
Yeah, they're way lower than this guy. So, there's like a unique 18th level Genie in somewhere. He's way lower than this guy.
Things, once you get past 20, it's the 21
so I see a
to
list of all the earth creatures,
air.
and it's not done in order of level. Yeah. But there's nothing on here that I see that I think is higher level than this. At least not yet. But we don't know what's going to happen later. And as people pointed out, like Mary did have a step block in PF1, as Jess pointed out, and chat. So like if there ever was more ability to get even stronger than PCs can get now, so that you could face the gods, then it's possible Erzul would appear and he would be stronger than one of these Xenomorph Vault Builders. But there's not much in like the Galarian setting that's supposed to be stronger on the plane of Earth than a Xenomorph, because aren't they? Didn't you say, Jess, they're directly the children of a god?
Yes.
So like
that was kind of the tie-in for why they were mythic, was that they all were mythic and they all had Cyrozul's divine essence. But after Cyrozul was in prison and Erzul came to them to manipulate them, Erzul told them that they would basically go extinct unless they besieged Erzul's blessing, and Erzul would only give them his blessing if they sacrificed their divinity to him. And they didn't want to completely give up their divinity, but they did believe him that they were going to go extinct. So what they did was they sacrificed the divinity of half of them. And so originally they were all vault builders, but the difference now between the vault builder and the vault keeper is the vault keepers are the ones who gave up Cyrozul's essence.
By the way, Vault Builder...
So there we go. This is the kind of information that we need an elemental scholar like Jess on, because there's not enough space in the step block to say more than vault builders still possess the full power Cyrusol instilled in them, capable of creating new life and shaping the world around them.
Yeah.
There's
Well, there is
well, they actually live for a lot less time than genies, because it's merely several millennia, but then they preserve their memories and their generation stones.
Yeah. So the vault builder description is shorter and specific to the vault builder, whereas on the previous page that has like the Zyamorn introduction, it says when Cyrusol created Zyamorns, they were immortal. She created 65,536 of them, all in her own image and all imbued with a piece of her divine spark. During her imprisonment, Irazul used visions of a future extinction to manipulate them into sacrificing their power to him. This sacrifice split the Zyamorns into the two classes that they are now. There are 32,768 Vault Builders, who kept Cyrus's essence, and 32,768 Vault Keepers, who would live forever no longer.
That's very specific.
Wait, but it says that the Vault Builders also live forever no longer, right? They only live for several millennia.
They're...
Or is it that they count their progeny as them? So when they go to the next one?
They don't actually have progeny per se. They are the same person in a new body.
Oh, okay. So it's like a brain in a Zyamorn kind of. And so it is sort of the same person, just period. They just built themselves into them. And the keepers, I guess, can't do that.
So, by the way, we have a whole bunch of questions that I want
to get to. Let's do it. Let's see.
Real quick.
I mean, we've got
a whole bunch you kept missing. Let's see. Well, someone thought maybe Unseen Might or Unseen Sight might be the new See Invisibility. True Sight.
Oh, I mean, I guess it could be See Invisibility, but it's 5th level, and I think classically True Seeing is 5th level, and the heightened See Invisibility. And the heightened See Invisibility. True Seeing is usually 6th level. And what level is the heightened See Invisibility? I thought that was also 6th level.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was 5th level.
It is 5th. No, you're right.
Oh.
You're right. And the chat is right. I remember wrong.
I marked down that day. I out Pathfinder Mark. Oh man.
You're right. It's got to be See Invisibility because it's heightened to 5th, and True Seeing is 6th. Absolutely.
Right. Wow. Yeah. It was
letter day.
Clerics at least used to get True Seeing before wizards.
Correct.
Right?
And that's what confused me as PF1.
Yeah. And so I was remembering True Seeing at 5th level, but that's because that's when clerics got it.
We have a question. This one I can answer.
Chat, you got it.
Question about Foundry. I can answer this one. Aaron Morder says, I'm curious how Foundry will handle this since we don't have the new spells yet. Also hoping for a re-OGL option on Foundry for people who hate the change. So, the way it's going to probably work is the Pathfinder add-on, which is, by the way, updated pretty much every day. It's one of the most updated add-ons for Foundry by far. They're continuously fine-tuning that. They will Foundry will definitely get GM core and players core early, so they'll have plenty of time to implement everything so that it coordinates with them, and that the books and the spells come out either at the same time or very shortly after the books come out. As for whether there's going to be two versions, that I can't say. I can see it going both ways. The problem with it is if it's just name changes, that could even be a toggle. That it's like you could have it both ways, either the pre-OGL or post-OGL.
It could even show both at the same time.
Both at the same time, right.
It could be like flat-footed parentheses off balance or something like that.
You could do stuff like that. If the actual context of the spells change, then it gets very complex. So I don't know yet because we haven't seen player core, so I don't know, but that will be something based on the content, and that's how it's going to. If I was doing the development, that's how I would do it.
Oh, someone pointed out the wand has a radiation trait, which we did say even back in core rulebook that one of the types of afflictions other than poison, diseases, and curses is radiation. It was literally in there and then pretty much never used and it wasn't traded, at least, because we didn't make like a radiation affliction, but it looks like here radiation is a trait and it's on the crystal staff.
Oh, guitar guy Nick wrote and said they're going to go ahead with updates and there won't be two versions. There you go.
Oh, there you go.
They'll
Well,
just
I
say
would-
install the older version. There you go.
I would trust Guitar Guy Nick because I guess he sounds very confident about that. So
He sounds confident. Guitar Guy, I've seen you before. I don't know who you are in the Foundry team, but I mean, let me know if you are part of the Foundry team. If you're, I mean, I mostly deal with Nat
well,
and
he said
Ian's and
they are
Matt.
just going and not we are
Yeah.
just going.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it might
yeah,
just
yeah,
be
yeah.
someone who's very, very plugged in on Foundry
Yeah,
and
for
what they're
Foundry.
doing.
They probably will, because the way they've been doing it is they always just stay, whatever the latest is what they do. So I can't see them going backwards. They never go backwards. They only go forward. So I could see that. And then there was a couple more. Are primal dragons in this book? Nope. No dragons.
They already existed in Bestiary 2.
Yep.
So if you want your primal dragons, you can
Yep.
get them in Bestiary 2.
This
Now,
is
if you mean like, will they be like remastered? We don't know until we see
Well, they
Monster
meant for this
Core
book.
and Monster Core 2. But
Yeah.
this book doesn't. Clearly, whatever they're doing in total with the Dragon remaster is like a later stage of the process.
Mhm.
So, by the way, creatures by level, I looked up. This vault builder is the highest level creature in this book.
Okay. It is. Oh, in the whole book. So
Yeah.
when you got Earth as like the last thing, it also had the
Yep.
strongest
Yep.
monster.
The next strongest is 18th level. I'm just looking at the creature by level chart.
So it's much stronger than all the other monsters.
18th level. Are there multiple at that level or
Nope.
just one?
And it goes 18 down to
Just
17, and then there's lots of
Yeah.
14s, lots of 13s, 11s.
Well, of course,
10s.
because you need 13
Here.
for
Yeah,
some of
yeah,
them, right?
yeah. It jumps.
Yeah,
but,
that 18th level creature, that's another one of mine.
Very cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Too bad we can't talk about it.
No, well, yep. We can only talk about the front matter, the back matter, and the Earth section, which
Mhm, mhm.
admittedly, the creatures by level is in the back matter.
We actually can't
So we
talk
can't
about
talk
the
about your
appendix,
creature,
too, by
but
the
we
way.
can. That's what I mean. The back matter is the appendix. So
Yeah.
we can say that there is an 18th level and a 17th level, and then a bunch of 14ths.
Mhm.
But we can't like go into detail about that. You'll need to check in those other element previews for that.
Yeah, we're only doing Earth. Someone asked if this is the only element. We're only doing Earth. Other content creators and partners are doing other elements. So
Yes,
you have to
it's
jump
been
around.
revealed so far that Wargamer is doing metal and has done a preview of the preview.
yeah,
And
Ooh.
how it's played.
Preview of
the
the
preview of the preview. Yeah, it's basically like the preview's coming. Here's a playlist of metal songs to listen to while you're waiting for the
I thought
preview.
that was
They
a
had
word
that.
preview, but I read that. I was like, "This is the preview."
Well,
It's metal?
it's not the preview yet.
I know.
It's
I
the preview
read
of
that.
the
I realized
preview.
it was the preview
How It's
of the
Played
preview.
did a fire preview, and someone in the chat said that No Net Ones is doing Kineticist, but that doesn't
I don't know
seem.
about
I
that.
haven't seen that confirmed anywhere other than in this chat. One person
Mhm.
saying that. So at least in terms of public things, and there will be other people who presumably, like Steven said, are going to take care of the other elements. And that other section that you kept seeing in the ribbon that said turn of elements, like you just saw it right there in the ribbon, right? There was elemental characters, then
Mhm.
all of the elements, and then turn of elements. So there's 8 in total. And you need to collect all 8 to find out all the details. And then you'll
True.
unlock your secret decoder ring.
Then the book will be
Yeah.
out. They want to know.
So
is it-
there was one of the pages of the air section. One of the first page of the air lore section was also shared during PaizoCon. So there are screenshots of that.
Oh,
floating around
so
as
you
well.
could get that if you check the right place. What were you going to say, Steven?
That's another one of my
they
pages.
asked if electricity is part of air.
That's pretty unclear. I think we may have seen a preview at some point where electricity, like, did metal do something electricity in a preview? I haven't actually looked closely at air and metal because Earth is our thing.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it's possible that they didn't just make the other things, the other elements, just always associated only 1-for-1 with energy types, because that wouldn't make any sense, since a lot of different
Mhm.
elements can do things that are associated with energy types. One of the things that made the least sense in D&D, in my opinion, is acid being associated with Earth, since the planet of Earth doesn't really have it, and Pathfinder lore doesn't really associate them. So given we have Earth, I saw a lot of creatures with poison in our section because of radiation. So it's possible that like radiation would be more with that. maybe both air because of lightning storms and metal might have it, or you could think of water for conducting electricity, right? Or and you can also think of water as sometimes being cold and becoming ice or becoming hot.
Too much.
You never know.
I think you're overthinking this.
I'm probably overthinking
you are
everything.
Overthinking. Guitar guy Nick also asked, I can't answer this. He says, after seeing the new archetype and this new book, do you think there's more power creep? And I can't answer that because, first of all, I haven't played with any of this. Second, I can't really answer. But I think Paizo has been doing a very good job so far to date in keeping the power in check. I'm running 2 games at level 15, and it's been just as challenging at level 15. And I allow everything. I allow everything in my games. Like the latest book that came out, they can use it. And I allow them to respec so they can like use new spells that came out and in any of the new books, new items they find. I say fine, no problem. And I still find it pretty damn challenging at level 15 as they did at level 1. So maybe that's just the way I run in my games, but so far it's been pretty damn balanced.
I think that like it may be beyond our scope of a purview of a preview and not a review to say what we think any more deeply than that, because you were talking about the game in general, right?
I'm talking about the game in general. I'm talking about the game in general.
And I agree with Steven about the game in general.
Yeah.
In terms of this book, we showed you, and we gave you not all of it. It's less than half. There's more that's in there. You could see it. So you should come to your own conclusions about what you think in terms of what's in there. I hope that you saw at least some things that interested you and that you thought that you could use in a way that was fun and would like affect your game in a positive way. If you did see anything in there that caught your eye and you're like, I don't know about this, just consider not using it, I guess, if you found anything that was like that. Just because you find one option that's in somewhere that is a problem doesn't mean that you shouldn't enjoy that product as a whole. It doesn't really take away. It's you are empowered as a group to say no to one option and to have fun with all the other options, because game designers aren't gods. No matter what we do when we write things, we're going to make mistakes and put in things that make it through the process eventually. Once the game is out for long enough, I even said Wall of Stone to some degree, like probably gave you a little too much flexibility, right? Like some of those things that's in the core. Some of those things are just going to happen a little bit. And so it's up to you to figure out what works for your group. And that's different than what works for the next group. A living game system is meant to be something that can work as well as possible for all groups, as possible under the constraints of like humans writing it and not knowing exactly what works for your group. So if you have a sense, you're like, I think my group would like it more if I strengthened this or weakened this or removed this or added this rare thing as common. And you're like, but wait, the authors wrote it. They must be right. You're actually probably right about your own group because you know your other players and everybody who's playing with you, and they're different. You're different. You're not the same as every other table out there that is running the game. And so you have a better sense of that than Jess or I do when we're out here writing, and then the design team is working on it after that. So that's kind of my spiel about balance in products, whether it's first party from Paizo, third party from Roll for Combat or another third party or anyone. You should always look with a critical eye and decide what you want to include so that you can have fun, cool things.
So Creative Burst said in the playtest, Kineticus had air feat abilities with electricity, but Wargamer article also mentions electricity being very abundant in the plane of metal. I guess we'll just find out.
We'll have to find out. We'll see if my overthinking thing turns out to be less overthinking. I don't know.
Yeah. There is precedent for a connection between like electricity damage and air. Like historically, it was the elemental energy type associated with elemental air. And then you also have Ragnagori, who is like the Duke of Thunder. Yeah. And then you have the Storm Soul Sylph lineage. And then the Kineticist maybe having some lightning stuff. But on the other hand, electricity is just a damage type. It's not necessarily an element. It could just be the same way that like multiple elements might be able to deal bludgeoning damage. It could just be that multiple elements have access to the ability to deal.
See, that's what I was thinking could be
lightning.
possible too.
Yeah.
And because the traditional D&D associations, some of them were weird, like earth and acid. Air and electricity always was the one that made the most sense out of all of them, in my opinion. And cold and water was the second most sense. And fire didn't have one. Actually, maybe that made the most sense. And then earth with acid was always just like, what? Like the ones that have been around since at least third edition, and maybe there was something in AD&D that those were based off of. Yeah. But I think that that's a cool idea that electricity, if it's not an element, can show up in multiple kinds of elements. Because consider this effect of superconductivity, where you combine cold with a metal to make it conduct electricity more, right? Like some of these things have their own combinations. In like Battle Zoo products, we just have 20 elements, and electricity is its own element. So therefore, that adds a different answer to it. So I love looking at different element systems to see what is done with these sort of associations and why. And it tells me a lot about the philosophy and sort of the soul of those element systems. And so it will be exciting to see more about this. I intentionally kept my close read only onto the Earth section because that's the section we're going to preview.
By the way, we have a Battle Zoo question, Mark. They wanted to know, do we have any material heavily based on Fae?
Do we have any material heavily based on Fae? We have out from June for Midsummer Night, the She Ancestry, which is an ancestry that is basically, they are the fair folk from fairy tales who everyone tells you don't eat their food. You have to watch your decorum around them. Something weird is going to happen. They follow the rules of stories rather than like real world logic quite as much. They worship fate as an entity that like imposes storybook logic on them, with roles like hero and villain changing what could happen to them, or the idea of like, you can't, for a fae, it's considered immoral or for a she to leave the children of your defeated enemy alive, because the last daughter of your defeated enemy could like rise up even though she never knew her parents and then kill you, because that's a story trope. And so there's all these things about like enforcing decorum on people, or there's a feat in there for like not today, where it's like, it's not my time to die. This is like an easy fight and you just don't die once per day. But if it's a climactic battle at the GM's discretion, you can't use that ability, the free action, to stay up. And there's a plot armor feat that just literally gives you plot armor. It's balanced with other feats of its ancestry feat level. So we've got that, and we've got nymphs coming up. So we've totally got Fae.
Yep, we have Fae. And more importantly, I like the She a lot because they're the nasty Fae. They're like, I feel like a lot of the Fae in Pathfinder and D&D and others, they're not too mischievous.
Even Leonacci are nice. They drain your life force, but they're so nice to you.
Yeah, they're pretty. These are the mean Fae. These are the Fae that don't fool around.
They truly care for the mortals who they give, who they inspire to greater heights. They believe it's helping them. Why would you want to live 50 years or one? That's like the same to them. And why would you want to leave 50 years of boring humdrum life instead of 1 year?
You know what I think of?
Burn brilliant and over and make like the greatest symphony anyone's ever seen. They're not being mean.
They're mean. You wrote the She. I think of, I don't know if you read American Gods, because in American Gods, you had the She, and they were very much like this. They were very like.
Actually, I haven't, but
yeah, they're
maybe they should.
They are nasty. They're very nasty. Like, they will curse you or kill you, or just like, if you don't respect them, oof. Yeah, you gotta respect the Fae.
Guitar Nick asked if I could build a character that resembles a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure stand, how would I do it in Pathfinder? I mean, if I wanted a JoJo stand or a persona, I would build a summoner where you get a JoJo stand or a persona with your Eidolon and just be like, look, it's my stand. I call it Dynamic Eagle Creature. Or whatever. I don't know. I haven't actually watched JoJo, but I know that it has like ridiculous, outlandish things in their stands. So I would say a summoner, absolutely, is, of the classes I've ever written, the one that's closest to being a JoJo stand, and it's very close to being one, although not exactly the same, is definitely Pathfinder 2 Summoner.
By the way, we have another Battlezoo question. Is the Zaxatol in the top left? It's actually top.
The shuttle?
Yeah, the shuttle. Well, no, it's actually they called it the Axatol because they thought it's our own ancestry. Is it playable? And the answer is
it is. It's
yes.
playable.
And the new
they're
Battlezoo Bestiary.
They're very unusual because they want to perfect themselves like these ancient old gods, which may or may not be kaiju. And so to do that, they do what many would see as bullying to push their friends to their limits if they like you a lot. But if they don't care about you, they're really polite and like help you out. And they even like do things for you because they're like, I don't want this, especially if they don't like you. And they're like, this human is very annoying and could be dangerous. I don't want to make them stronger. I'm just going to go do them a favor and help them out. That'll make them soft and weak because I'm helping them.
That reminds me of the opposition, one of the sects in Planescape.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I wasn't even thinking about that.
That reminds
right.
me of New Yorkers. And
it reminds you of New Yorkers?
Yes, New Yorkers. That's because that's how we are, man. That's how we are.
New Yorkers are actually a lot friendlier than people say.
They are. But
you're saying that they're friendly because they don't like you?
No, they're friendly
and they want to keep you weak?
No, because well, if they really like you, then they push you.
Okay, that's fair. They
do push you. Those will be in the World of Battlezoo Indigo Isles, which kickstarts in less than 2 weeks on July 18th. And the book and the Ancestry should be out by September. So you'll get it right after the Kickstarter ends and within about 3 to 4 weeks.
Should we tell them who the author is who wrote the Shuttle? Because I didn't write everything. It was Michael Raccoon, who is the cover author for one of the cover authors for Dark Archive, along with me and James Case, wrote the Shuttle and had all sorts of ideas for what to do with them that you'll get to see.
The ideas that is a weird, cool ancestry.
He definitely read through all of our lore about what weird things were going on in the world and tied them in a way that I hadn't been thinking of completely at the time, but just totally makes sense given the setting.
Yeah, actually, this book, The World of Battlezoo Indigo Isles, has, oh my god, I don't know how we're going to do the cover. It has like 20 authors. We have so many authors. And you can be an author too, because everyone who backs it gets to submit new island ideas. And the winners...
We'll pick the best ones. Even if you don't have to back it some giant tier to be on the list. Everybody. We'll pick the best ones, and I will write your pitch into a short mini island in the other islands section.
So Mark will write your island. How about that? Yep. You don't even have to do any work. You just say, I want an island of snakes. And you're like,
I want an island of radioactive dinosaurs.
Dinosaur
as an
island.
homage to Erzul. And then that'll be one of the islands, I guess.
Yes, and you'll get full credit.
If we choose it.
What would your island be,
We probably won't choose it if it's Bodie McBoatface, though, so don't pick that.
Yeah, don't make Bodie McBoatface. Well, we actually have a lot. We have Bob Worldbuilder wrote All of Moonshadow. We have Grady, who wrote the other
Grady
two
from
islands.
Goblin and Queer Finder.
Yeah.
My island would be one of those like islands of cats where it's just a whole bunch of stray cats.
Okay. Well, we could do an island with you. You know what we're going to do? I didn't even tell you this, Mark.
Yeah, we could have Jess write an island of stray cats anyway.
Well, we still can. You know what we're doing? We're going to have Derek on the show, and we're going to create the island with him live on the air.
Are we going to force him to have leshies and puppets on the island so that he gets angry?
He's going to create it, but then you're going to write it like, you know how you do on Arcane Mark?
Oh, all the Arcane Mark build something workshops.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, well, I've done build a settlement and build
we'll build
nation,
an island.
So we can do build an island workshop.
We're going to do build an island workshop, and that will be his island.
I'm just going to maybe stick some puppets and leshies into his island just to
annoy him.
To see what he does.
Well, he said he's on. He's still on. Nod.
Okay.
It's my world, Mark. Oh, he's not letting you.
Fair enough. You know
he
what?
actually had some cool ideas. He was talking about making like Avatar only thing instead of the waterfalls coming from the sky, like like the Yes covers, which is like what Avatar World is. You have things going reverse and the waterfalls going up. And I said with the Eld And the Eldamon, we can do that. It's actually not
You
even
could.
that hard. It's
It
actually
would be
built
like
into
water
our lore.
plus air, water plus space.
It's built into our lore, so we can
Imagine
easily
you had
do that.
a spatial distortion where there was just like two portals, and therefore the water was flowing weirdly. I could see it.
Yeah, so we would have to have a
Ooh.
cat island. Cat island. I don't know if I would like a cat island. We'd have to change that up a little, because then what would
Could the cats be like very danger cats?
No, but what would the
Some of
cats
them?
eat? You know, they can't.
Horses, little miniature horses that the cats eat.
That sounds horrible. There has to be some
I just
balance
was trying
to
to
the
do
island.
some appeal for Jess though, because she doesn't like horses, but she likes cats. So
true,
if
I
the
don't.
cats to get rid of the horses, then
Wow, that sounds.
I mean, there's like other things on the island, right? Like it's not an island of exclusively cats. It's just
Well, these
the
are
way
small.
that like
These are-
some places
These are like keys
it's the way
and
that
stuff.
like
They're
some places
tiny.
become infested with like stray cats, right?
Yeah, it could
So
be
like
like the
there's
stray
there's
cat
a city
island.
or something, but it's one of those cities that is just like infested with stray cats. There's
all right.
cats
Here's my
everywhere.
pitch.
No, actually,
Here's
I
my
have it.
pitch.
Oh
No,
wait,
I've got a pitch.
It's
It's an island that's off of Moonshadow, which has cryptfowl problems, which are chickens who ate too many bodies and are now kind of have ghoul fever.
Yes,
And so some of those chickens made it off onto a subsidiary island, and cats who are predating the cryptfowl are now becoming ghoul cats.
Mhm.
Mm.
Oh.
What do you think?
I was gonna have
Also,
it.
do you know about the island that has like the fairy penguins off of Australia?
I've heard about it.
Yeah. I like desperately want to see these fairy penguins.
I've been to Puffin Islands, many actually. I've seen many,
Ooh.
many, 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 many puffins, back in like in Nova Scotia and stuff. But I would see cats. You see, I could see because mice and rats do breed like crazy, so there could be an eco balance system
Mhm.
between the mice and the cats, and that they never, if one gets too big, then the other one collapses, so they keep each other in balance at all times.
Here's another pitch for that one. There's a Kate she, which is one of the types of she, but it can turn into a cat.
Mhm.
Oh, that's the cat.
And this
she,
is the
yeah.
domain of a Kent she,
Mhm.
who has like is sort of like the king of cats or the monarch of cats, and is keeping all the cats on the island in check. And they come to a court where they're all meowing and meowing, and they are dealing with these rats, possibly for some unknown reason that the rats represent a danger.
Yeah. I could also sell you the cat fae that I created for the No Direction, the Legend Lore episode on No Direction, where we talked about creating your own creatures, which was like the first world prototype of the cat, and it's like what's it called?
I don't know. You got to tell us.
A little gremlin. It's a gremlin.
A gremlin cat. Oh man.
Yeah.
Gremlin
We have a-
cat.
It's like a first level gremlin, but it's a cat.
Wow. We have a gremlin ancestry.
Yeah.
I wonder
can
if
play
that
gremlin.
gremlin cat could have like an animal companion version of itself or familiar for the gremlin characters to bring around with them as a friend.
Well, you can, if Jess, you want to do it. It's only you only need a couple hundred words. These aren't that long. These are small.
These islands are short
They're short.
descriptions to give you.
Mhm.
Mhm.
It's basically one of those things where you read it and then it just gives you your
Ideas.
brain all these weird ideas from just all the condensed plot hooks that are on the island,
We
but it's
actually
not
have
like
to
a giant gazetteer.
Figure out if a page, 600 words a page. So about 200
You usually
words.
get more than 600 if it doesn't have art.
Yeah, and these aren't going to
Mhm.
have that much. So I'd say about 200-ish words per island.
Yeah, that's what I'm expecting is about 200
You want to
words.
get us 200
per
words?
island.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see.
I'll throw an island on there. They
Well,
give
I
you
mean,
credits.
we have given Jess a lot of other words already, but
We gave
Yeah.
Jess a lot of words, but this one, 200 words, you can knock that out. That's like nothing.
I mean, I don't really want to take on additional projects.
200 words,
even.
one island.
Well,
Cat
I
Island.
need to. Yeah, but I really
Okay.
need to focus on the words that I already have.
Oh,
Just like conceptually, right? Like it's only 200 words, but it's also like another project occupying space in my brain.
it takes more time than you think and brain space if you have a lot of projects to add one very
Mhm.
small one.
No, I wouldn't
know from
understand that
having
at
had
all.
Yeah.
No, not at all. 10,000 projects going on
Look,
simultaneously.
we actually cycled all the way back to the beginning when Jess said,
Yeah.
Steven, you always add on more
I
and
do.
make things have the most things ever.
I do. This
Yeah,
book,
we
by
have
the
a comment.
way.
Can we get 2 warring cat factions that are fighting over a Pathfinder version of catnip that is in short supply?
Sure.
Maybe. What if it's the Cat She faction and
Wait,
the
I got
Ghoul
it.
Cat faction?
I got it. Derek, we can do a version of Oath. So every island will have one of the factions from Oath. So we'll have the cat faction, and those would be like the monarchy, and then we have the beavers and the otters, and then we have the raccoons, scoundrel. We got every single faction, and then before you know it, we have like the rootosphere, where it's all the different islands.
Yeah.
There you go.
So in Strength of Thousands, Volume 6, I wrote a piece of back matter that is about running adventures that have like fable themes.
Mm-hmm.
And this section has some like example like fable plot hooks. And one of them is kind of like this 2 warring cat factions thing. So we have here 2 cats, Tabby and Calico, are barons of small farms on opposite sides of a river. Both cats have bountiful catnip fields tended by the farm cats of 2 nearly identical villages, East Claw and West Claw. Greedy wolf raiders from the Doglands downriver have been stealing from the farms and spoiling the crops. Baron Tabby built a barricade to dam the river and stop the raiders' boats, but West Claw's farm cats dismantled the barricades when it cut off irrigation to their fields. Baron Calico laid nets in the river to catch the wolves, but East Claw's farm cats cut apart the nets when they tangled in their water wheels. Because the cats are continually undoing each other's efforts, neither can defend against the wolf raiders. Until they learn the value of teamwork, East Claw and West Claw will never be safe. And then it goes on to give you some like advice on how you can actually run this.
Oh, really? Yeah. That's so funny.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And then it goes on to give you advice.
Both alike in dignity.
Yeah. And so it goes on to give you some advice of how you can GM interacting with these 2 cat claws. It suggests using the influence subsystem, and it tells you like what skills each cat is influenced by, and some other advice on like actually running this as an adventure, and then some like outcome information and so forth.
Got it.
But yeah, it's very similar of these rival cats and their need for catnip.
Well, I hate cats, so.
In the Magambia, where we lay our seed.
I don't hate cats, but I'm allergic, and so is my wife, therefore. And I've only met 2 nice cats in my life. All the other ones were evil cats.
My cats are very nice. They're also little terrorists, but they're very nice.
Well, I also, when I lived in Pittsburgh, there was a huge family of feral cats that lived in the alley behind my bedroom. So I would hear them at all hours of the night for years going at it.
A blessing.
Go ahead.
A blessing.
It was not a blessing to hear screaming, fighting cats all the time.
Yeah.
Steven, which are meaner? She or cats? Or cat she?
Cat she.
Mm.
Are you a cushy person?
That's
for
the dog
dogs?
one, right?
Yeah.
I do like the dog she.
Dogs suck.
Dogs are fantastic.
Dogs are the worst.
No, they're not. You're
Dogs?
terrible. You look like a cat person, Jess. Where's your furry guy? Where's Snuffleupagus, whatever your name is?
Bartholomew. Bartholomew the long Furby. He's in the bedroom.
Oh, okay. Is that kind of a cat? Is that a cat type thing? Does he have a cat-like personality?
Cats and Furbies do have like canon interactions. There are like there is a word in Furbish to refer to a cat, and cats and Furbies, they communicate with each other, and cats are known to be like the holders of magical secrets that they withhold from the humans.
So, Steven, you'll like this.
Yes.
Because there's a Jem Hadar reference in the super chats. The feline drug Catracel White.
That is, who wrote that? They get a hero point.
It was written by Fuchila 2.0.
Wow, that's so great.
From Deep Space Nine, when
they catch
used that drug to keep their warriors from the Dominion in line, so that they would fight.
Yes,
yeah,
I love it. I probably have seen, and this is no joke, I've probably seen every episode of Deep Space Nine. I mean, easily 50 times, but maybe even 100.
Holy moly.
Easily. Because it used to be on BBC TV, BBC America. It was on every day, and I would just watch it. And it took about 6 weeks to go through the whole season, and I would just turn it on and watch it. And then I would see it. And we're talking like 15 years.
It's my favorite Trek. There are a lot of Treks that my dad watched with me when I was little, and Deep Space Nine was our favorite. We probably didn't catch every episode on cable, but I did rewatch it some years back once to see all of them in order.
I've seen it so many times. And I never, ever, 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 ever get bored of it. And I remember when it was live, when it was airing in the 90s. And we would go every day at work. Me and everyone would go and talk about the episode, because that live, they're in the middle of the Dominion War, and people were just like, "Oh my God, can you believe what's going on?" Like, it was so intense. Those days are long gone. Remember hour-long TV shows that were actually 46 minutes long and actually had commercials, 26 episodes a season, as opposed to now where it's God knows what, and they're like 6 episodes a season, if you're lucky.
I do remember that.
Terrible.
So
Jess.
Does anyone have any more questions for us about, it can be about Indigo Isles, it can be about Earth Element in Rage of the Elements.
That's right. I gotta go play pickleball in a little while.
And Steven's got to play pickleball soon. So this is a good time to get in your last questions before Steven plays pickleball. Last call.
It's a fake.
It's a fake.
That's one of my favorite scenes.
Have you seen the meme of where they like voice modulated in and have him holding up snakes and other things?
No,
where he's like, it's a snake.
No,
and then he holds up a picture
Conroy?
of Jake Sisko and says, "It's a Jake."
Isn't it? Oh, I got to see that. I think it's Kevin Conroy who plays that guy.
Renak.
Yeah.
All right, so I am going to copy the link into our chat so that everybody can see it, unless it doesn't give me permissions to do that. Yeah, now everyone who's in our YouTube chat can see.
Oh my God!
From In Pale Moonlight, possibly the best episode of Deep Space Nine.
Such a good episode. They're all good. Every episode is good. Even the bad episodes, even the Moogie episodes. Even those, I don't mind any of them.
Knights of Last Call, I got the name right because, like I said, I guess 5 or 6 years ago, I rewatched the entire series a second time. And I guess when I said that, when Steven said he watched it 50 times, that may have made it lose impact. But I never watched something.
I'm not as good. What was his name?
I never watched something a second time because I remember it too well after the first time, and it spoils it unless it's been many, many years, and if I do, it's very rare. So now I know a lot of random details because I watched it again.
Bad with names. What's his name? Renak?
Renak. Yeah. It's a fake.
Jess, do you have any idea what we're talking about, or no? You're not a Deep Space Nine fan?
Oh, Drago Wolf pointed out that the radiation trait was not on the other radiation things before that, so it's definitely new.
Oh, okay.
Ooh. I started watching Deep Space Nine. I have not concluded watching Deep Space Nine.
Oh my God, it's so good. It's so good. And the baseball episode, which is funny because I first saw that as a huge baseball fan. I hated that episode, and I have grown to like that episode quite a bit. One of the only... They always make the captains like a sport. Like every one of the captains always has a personality quirk. Like they either like Coffee, which was Captain Janeway, and that was her big thing was coffee. Or you had Archer, and he was into polo, water polo, which I think was too obscure for anyone to like really connect with him because that was so obscure. But then with Captain Sisko, they made his sport baseball, and that was fantastic. That was, and they would talk about it all the time. They even played it. It was. I can't think of any other show that ever did that. Yeah, it's really good. You got to finish it, Jess. It gets. What season are you up to?
Oh, I'm still in like the first episodes of the first season.
Oh, they're not.
Yeah, you're not even close. That's what I'm saying.
I've watched maybe like 3 episodes.
No. Okay, so the first 2 years are all fluff, and I'd say it's fine. But then season 3, it really picks up, and then after that, it's one continuous story. And that's what I'm saying. There's no way. It's very hard. I can't see how you just like stop, because before they do what Netflix does and everyone does now, where it's like just one story, they did it. And theirs is like, they start, I don't want to spoil it, but they start a story arc that goes on for like 4 years. So it's good. And it's serious.
I just have like a lot of TV shows that I want to watch. Like I have
an infinite number, but whatever.
I have a document of like the things that my roommate and I need to watch. And like some of these are things that we've started. I try to collect the things that we've already started up near the top. So like we've started Foundation, but we haven't finished it. We started Raised by Wolves. We're still like
that's
somewhere
gone.
in
You
the
can't even
what
find
we
that.
do in this.
They took that off.
Yeah.
It's gone. You can't even make. It's gone. They took it off. It's off. You're never gonna watch it because it's not on there.
No, I'll find it.
A lot of things are just getting removed.
So what they do?
HBO took Legendary away too. I'll find it.
Yeah, they're
somewhere.
taking them all off. They're taking them all off.
I was outraged when they took Legendary off. Like that is.
Gotta save money.
I think that the fact that they can destroy all traces of something and get an extra tax write-off is actually a terrible thing for the entire. That
it is bad. It is bad.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
they're going to fix that soon, because what they're going to do is, because there's loopholes. This is what always happens. There's loopholes in the way residuals work, because the residuals are basically set up now that you have to pay based on like, this is this is a very weird tangent, but I'm going to say it anyhow. When Microsoft bought, so Microsoft was looking for, back in 1993, 94, they were looking for a competitor to Firefox. And because they needed their own web browser, but they couldn't write one fast enough. So they were looking to buy one, and they refused to give out residuals or like $1 per, because they used to buy it back then. They used to have to buy Firefox. So they were like, okay. And then so they finally figured out a deal, and they worked out this deal with a company and said, okay, you will get residuals for every version of Internet Explorer that we hand out. And they were so happy. And then they said, it's free! And the residuals were 0 because they gave it out for free. So that's all that's happening right now, is that's exactly what happened. It's like they say, okay, we get residuals. I'm like, well, if we ain't showing it, there ain't no residuals, are there? And they're like, uh-oh, we didn't think that was an option. They go, yep. So they're canceling all the shows and taking them down. But they're going to get rid of that. Like newer contracts, they'll just sign something saying, we get this residual, whether or not you show it, we get residuals, period. Like you buy it, we get this amount of money. So that will go
hopefully
away.
Also the writers' strike will lead to agreements that they're going to stop doing some of these
that's going to go away. It's just going
things.
to take a few years.
Yeah.
But that's why, because it's cheaper for them.
It's terrifying. As someone who works in like a related field of writing things for people's entertainment, just imagining the situation where like somehow, I don't know, like Steven would never do this because he wants to create cool products that have them be out, but like something happens to Steven and it's bought by somehow Roll for Combat is bought by like the Discovery CEO who is like, I know what I can do. I can just go to people's houses and delete all of their PDFs of all of the things that Mark wrote while he was at Roll for Combat, and those will be gone from the internet forever, and it will get me a tax write-off.
What they're doing is actually they resold these shows. Some of them are actually now appearing on Netflix.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
so
that's
at
actually
least they're showing up somewhere. I thought that they were going to just be gone, and it's just be like only people who are like some, especially for the ones that were streaming only. Like, how do you even have it? There's no one who has a legal copy of it anymore.
Yep. Well, yep. I mean, my rule is, unless the show is either nearly complete or it's absolutely fantastic or semi-standalone, I don't watch them anymore. Pretty much. I'm pretty. I don't know, like that, the Wolves one you talked about. Like, I was like, oh, that was on my list, but then it was canceled. I'm like, well, it's off the list, and now it's gone. So I'm like, well, that's way off the list. That's off the list because I will never ever get a chance to see that.
Yeah,
it's frustrating.
But the good thing is that Star Trek is done. You got 7 years. You can watch it, beginning, middle, and done. You don't have to worry about that going anywhere.
Derek did give a super chat we didn't say, I think, which is that "Take Me Out to the Hollow Suite" is not a great episode in season 7 of DS9.
Well, the season 7 was the dumping ground with like Vic Fontaine, and they had a lot of extras. I liked the Vic Fontaines a lot. I actually love those episodes.
Do you know about like their funding at that time? Because from what I understand, bottle episodes like that where they just reuse the set or they use like things from their other
bottle
studio
episodes
projects that were from or just it made it generically on the ship meant that they were running out of money because they bought something that was too expensive in some of the other episodes.
They run out of money or they run out of time because every episode has a limited budget, but then they go over budget, so they have to make up for it by doing bottle episodes. Bottle episodes don't exist anymore, by the way. But back then, because they didn't. Well, they used
the way that the budgets have changed and the way that doing CGI and stuff have changed and the economics of that. The need for bottle episodes, I feel like, has shifted.
Well, they used to be filming the episodes and then they would just show a few weeks later. So they were always just ahead of the show, as opposed to now is that shows are done, complete, finished, and then released all in one. Like they used to, that's not how shows are made. Shows are made, I mean, the comedies are still made that way, but the way like Deep Space Nine, it was, can you imagine? That was brutal. They would film that. It was like a 10-day schedule. It was like beginning to end. It's like they filmed the whole episode in like 7-10 days, and that's it. And it's done. And they go right to the next one. They just keep going, churning them out. I was like, oh my god, that sounds like an absolute nightmare. They have to do everything. So. We lost Derek, so there we go.
Yeah, that's it. And I haven't seen any more Rage of Elements questions I've been looking through. So I think we did a good job. We showed you, hopefully, enough of the section on Earth that you're excited, but there's a bunch more that you didn't see that is really cool that you're going to want to have to check out in the book itself. And of course, check out all the previews from Wargamer on Metal, from How It's Played, which is already out on Fire. And when the others are officially revealed, all of the other ones on the other elements, check them all out, catch them all, then tell us what you think in the comments or just elsewhere, like on Discord, on the Roll for Combat Discord, on Twitter, wherever you are. Tell us what your favorite element is. Is it Earth?
Tweet me directly.
Earth? Yeah, tweet Tectonomancer, which is Jess, and just be like, get into
it. Tweet me directly and talk to me about your elemental opinions.
By why your element is better than air, and see if you wind up starting a big debate with the elements online.
There we go. Big. That's what we want is the war of the elements, the rage of the elements.
The rage of the elements, the anger rage online. Besides that, the algorithm would love a giant argument about what the best element is, just philosophically or in this book.
Yeah.
My favorite element is churn. Which is all the elements.
I think that explains why you're always adding more and more to every product, because your favorite element is churn.
Well, I was being diplomatic. That way, all of them are my favorite. So there you go.
Oh, I see. I see. You could have as many elements as you want, because 6 elements times 5 elements is 30, but then that's really 15 because earth and metal is the same as metal and earth. So that's as close as you can come. 2 combined elements to having 20 elements like you have. It's still less if you think of all 2 element pairings between 6 elements.
All right.
Yeah, so how is RPG Superstar going?
Good, I guess.
Yeah. We're still in the public voting rounds, but it's eventually going to shift over to the professional judging rounds with judges like Jess are going to be anonymously commenting, and you won't know if Jess was your judge or not on unless it says like parentheses, like Furbies and cats are great and horses are bad, close parentheses, like at the end of the comment, then you'll get all the feedback. So you'll know, several professionals will tell you like what they think about your monster. And if you scored high enough, you will make it into the book Battle Zoo Bestiary Elemental Storm, which will then get development passed by me. So I'll take a look through it, polish it up, and we'll get it out there.
Every single monster has been voted on at least several times. So, and there's over 500, so that's the good news.
That's a lot of elemental monsters. I'm excited because I like putting things with elements. That will let me, if I wanted to make a setting that was all about the elements, have like tons of monsters that I can add in. And since monster parts systems have elemental imbuements that you could put the imbued properties into items, these monsters will always have parts for at least one of the elements. So if I want to add lightning, I can find lightning monsters in here, probably. I mean, I guess I don't know. It's possible all of the winners will just like all be fire or something. And it'll be like, oh, all the highest scores somehow went to fire creatures mostly, and certain elements didn't have any winners. That actually could happen. When people think about randomization, they always think being like equal between everything is the most random, but really the most random is to have weird random disparities that you don't expect.
I'm looking at some of these. I don't really look at these until later because I can't do anything about them. So they, other than making sure they are legitimate, I just sort of pay attention and make sure everything's going smoothly. But it looks like people are still voting. So keep on voting. Go to RPG Superstar. Hit the button. Just hit the vote on a random monster button.
It'll give you one that needs votes, right?
Yeah. It basically will go. The button itself will give you monsters that not necessarily need votes, but those are the ones we'd rather you vote on, because some just have more votes. Or it's ones
that aren't as saturated with votes. Correct. Or something like that?
Yes, he'll always choose the ones at first. He'll usually choose the ones that have not the least number, but if one has 20 votes and one has 5 votes, he'll go to the one that has 5 votes.
So it's sort of random sampling based on the ones that are lower on the vote.
But of those, to keep in mind, there could be 100 that have 5 votes. So, so
you'll
be you'll have a lot to vote on. Trust me, it's not gonna run out anytime soon.
Sweet.
But I do have to go. And Jess, you know what you guys have to do? I want to do legend lore, but I need you guys to maybe do a legend lore episode on the Indigo Isles. I have 240 plus pages of lore here for you, baby.
That's a lot. That's a lot. That's a pretty wide scope for a single episode.
Well, it wouldn't be all 240 pages. It would be 80,
that would be
80 or much. So. I'm thinking, well, because some of this ancestries.
Nearly 80.
Well,
not really. Like, we could do the gods or the elves or something like that.
The scope of a legend lore episode is like one ancestry.
Oh, we can do, there's 10 ancestries, so you can do one. But the god system, I mean, Lauren's very familiar with the god system because she's read it, and Vanessa wrote it, so she's familiar with that. The Eld is in there, and then obviously the land is all new, like everything.
I would definitely be interested just overall. I don't know if it's the best legend lore episode for people who are not me, but of hearing Jess's opinion about the Eld, which is an elemental religion that just sort of worships the elements in general as what it does.
Yeah. Zolgathor says, I would love it if you did lore videos, any of you. You're in luck.
Well,
because I am on the podcast Legend Lore. And Legend Lore is a podcast previously hosted by Lauren and Luis Loza. But Luis stepped away, and I am his replacement. I am obviously a qualified replacement for Luis Loza. We both own cats. That's about, I don't know what other qualifications I could possibly need for hosting Legend Lore.
I mean, your name starts with J,
there.
And most people's name at Paizo starts with J.
Yes.
So. That is true. Yeah, I could get hired to work on Starfinder.
Okay. Well, I mean, Jess and Lauren.
But Legend Lore is a podcast on the No Direction Network.
Yeah.
I have been a co-host as of episode 50. So you can go check it out.
Yeah.
There are episodes where we talk about different gods. There are episodes where we talk about different ancestries. We did one on building creatures recently where we talked about the RPG Superstar contest. And Lauren and I both built creatures, so you could listen to that to hear about the cat, the gremlin that I was talking about.
Yeah, now I was thinking about that because Lauren, you guys do a good job. And I'm like, you should do lore and our stuff because that's what the whole book's about. It's a lore book. And the book is getting, you were right. I never can do anything short because I think this book is up to 200. Because most lore books don't get this big. And it's not just lore.
It's going to be over 240, which the only lore books I know of in PF2 that are...
It's going to probably be bigger.
Going to be, yeah, I think bigger than that. The only ones bigger than that are Mwangi, Expanse, and Impossible Lands. And that's it. Impossible Lands got an extra expansion added to it.
And
Absalom.
And Absalom.
Oh, yeah, of course. I always forget Absalom. Absalom is the giant...
Yeah, Absalom too.
I always forget it, but it's way bigger than everyone else.
Well, Absalom is...
Absalom is massive.
I don't almost say Absalom's too big. it's so big.
Absalom is certainly a book that is a size.
It is. Yeah, it's a little too big. But ours has a lot because it's not just because we did polls to find out what people really wanted, and that's what we put in the book. So like we don't use magic spells, so that's not in the book.
Yeah.
But people wanted
that
ancestries.
was lower on the list of what people wanted in a lore book, it turned out, than new ancestries that would get you a lore book on a region, new ancestries, and that get you kind of tied into the region, information about that region, and things that can be found in the region.
Story hooks, what people plot wanted. Hooks, standalone cities.
Isn't Absalom like 400 pages? That sounds approximately.
I think that's right.
It's 400.
If you told me any number and it was a high number, I would be like, that's probably right.
I have it right here. I have it right behind me.
It is.
Exactly.
All right.
I have everything.
Which is longer, Absalom or Jewel of the Indigo Isles, Stephen?
Oh, it's not even 400. It's 398 pages.
Oh, wow. See,
I always 400 sounded approximately
Jewel is bigger by 420 pages.
Just by a little.
Wait,
and Impossible Lands then is 334. That would be longer than Mwangi, which I think was just over 300, probably.
Yeah, 420 for the Pathfinder version.
I think Mwangi is 302, maybe?
400.
Okay.
What's it? Mwangi? I have that right here too.
Is that 302? Let's see.
Mwangi is... I got every book. Always behind me. 312.
312, okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's a different parity of signatures than 334 on Impossible Lands.
You can do 4 page signatures now.
Oh, fair enough.
So I think I can even do 2-page signatures. So I bet I tell them what size it is, and they're like, okay. I'm like, do I have to change it? They're like, nope. I'm like, really? I'm like, yep. They don't seem to care anymore. I was like, okay. The old days, it always had to be 16, and then at least they didn't like 12. 12 was really bad. The 4 was okay, and 8 was okay, but 12, they said don't do a 12. So, but now they don't. The primary use, they don't care. I'm like,
so like, Steven, you've got to go do pickleball in a minute, right? I think we should put timestamps on this for each of the different sections of things that we did for people who are looking for
Someone
the previews.
Else, give me that to me. You give it to me, I'll add it.
Yeah, because I know there's a thing you could do where you just even mouse over it and it shows the different sections.
No, what you do is, because you have to manually put in the timestamps. If you put in the time in your description, it adds that.
So we're asking you, viewers, get Steven the timestamp so that we can put the timestamps for all the 9 or 10 pages counting the introduction that we showed, so that way people can go right to the pages. Because look, listen, we love giving extra content, extra context from things that Jess knows, or trying to sleuth little remastered things from here. But I know that there's some percentage of you who just really, really, really wanted to see those 10 pages. And if you're actually still here at this point, then I'm very grateful to you, because I figure all those people just left immediately the moment that we said weren't going to show them any more pages. But I'm glad you stuck around and that you enjoyed it enough to do that. But
found out all
for
about
other people who want to do that, I think giving them timestamps makes sense. And we hope that they'll enjoy the content. There's not just the text that's on there as well when they come for that.
Okay. Well, with that, I'm going to go play pickleball. And as usual, Jess, Glad to have you on. I'll invite you on again, and
Yeah.
this time I'm going to tell you the stream starts an hour before it does.
Oh no.
Make sure.
No, if you want me 15 minutes before the stream starts, I will be sure that I am at the computer 15 minutes before the stream starts.
Well, all
if you
that
want me
happened
an
is you were
hour
muted
before
for
the stream starts.
you were just muted for the first minute. That's all.
Yeah.
So, you know.
The time that we actually figured out that Jess should be on the show only 15 minutes before the stream started, weirdly, like she came on like immediately and we got it to
I know. I was
Yeah,
like, okay,
yeah.
we get Jess on, and she gets on in 15 minutes after I asked her to go on. But then the one that I'm like, can you come on like a day before? She's like, sure. And
Yeah.
that's when she shows up. Like,
It's just
I was
you were busy. You forgot.
precisely on the minute on time.
I
fair
hate
enough,
to
fair
break it
enough.
to you, that doesn't work in the world of streaming because we got to
Yeah.
set things up.
No, I will be 15 minutes or 30 minutes or whatever you want me early next time. I will like set phone reminders and everything.
Yes.
We got this. Someone said to timestamp the Sundere Erzul for some reason.
Oh.
Okay.
But yeah, if you would like me to come back on like after Gen Con, after Rage of Elements has like fully released and we can talk about the entire book.
You can give all sorts of those sort of
Yeah.
insider info once the book has been opened and it's not Earth only. Like on why
Yeah.
Air is your favorite. I think people would be interested in seeing that personally.
That's in 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's scary.
It is fast.
Wait, it's not. Is it?
Well, that's when the
I thought-
embargo ends, yeah. Because people who
Oh.
subscribe will start getting it in 2 weeks.
Wait, I thought
Oh,
the
yeah,
embargo
well-
ended after it came out. Does it actually end when the subscriptions come out? Okay. Well, there we go.
Yeah. Well, so I
might
don't
be
know
right.
what your rules for revealing content are.
I
So
don't-
if your
I don't
rules for
keep-
revealing content are that you can show everything like prior to release,
Mhm.
then I can come on and comment on anything that it is that you choose to show.
Mm.
But for me as an author, I can only comment on things that
Right.
have been revealed by non-me persons
Yeah, I know.
until
Yeah.
release. And then
Yeah.
upon release, I can comment on the full book.
So
Got it.
Steven is right. Paizo explicitly stated that that they stated rules that is very clear that were we to do a show
Mhm.
that was in 2 weeks, it would be after the embargo is lifted and
Mhm.
reviews would be allowed and commenting on any
Mhm, mhm.
showing and commenting on anything in the full book would be allowed by that date.
Well, it was a red
Which is
letter day.
also
I
like
was-
right after our Kickstarter starts too.
Yeah.
So like it could be a good time to do something like that people want to see.
We'll see.
So we can try to figure it out.
We'll see. All right, I gotta go.
Mhm.
Bye.
All right.
See you guys
Bye.
later, everyone.
Hi, Barbarian here. Are you a game master looking for an amazing game world rich in lore and strange new creatures to run your D&D or Pathfinder 2 game in? Well, look no further than the world of Battlezoo, Indigo Isles. The world of Battlezoo, Indigo Isles contains everything you need to set sail for adventure. Except maybe a boat. You're probably gonna have to buy your own boat. But the book itself contains a detailed overview of key locations on the Indigo Isles, dozens of story hooks and NPCs, and details on the ancient spiritual religion known as the Eld. Wow, that sounds spooky. Don't forget to take your weapons with you. You'll also get 15 new dragons as monsters, featuring the entire family of wild dragons from the Battlezoo Ancestries Dragons book to help you murderize your players' precious characters. And you'll get gobs of new magic items to make them feel like they might have a chance. But they won't, will they? What's more, there are tons of new character options. 10 new ancestries, 10, and new archetypes and subclasses and heritages and 7 familiars native to the Indigo Isles. Remember, the world of Battlezoo Indigo Isles comes in 2 different versions, one for D&D 5e and another for Pathfinder 2. Oh yeah, and they are releasing the PDF right after the Kickstarter ends. If you'd like a new fantastical world to amaze your players with, click that link right down below to follow the Kickstarter and get notified when it goes live.